What is up, everyone? Welcome back to some more Higurashi. In the previous recording session, the gang got together and they celebrated the big annual festival that's held at Hinamizawa. But at the festival, Keiichi learns about the mysterious curse that's befallen the village over the last few years. And the curse struck again. Our homie Tomitake got murdered in a very interesting manner. And as far as we know, Keiichi is the only one who knows it, obviously other than the perpetrators, but Keiichi is the only one who knows about it for now, because Keiichi was the only one the cops were comfortable talking to because he was a newcomer in the area, and also because he actually had a connection to Tomitake. So that's kind of where we pick up at. So without further ado, let's jump back into it, shall we? Sleepy. I'm usually awake when it's time to eat, but it doesn't look like I can do it today.
ゆうべ遅くまでテレビ見てたら眠くて眠くて。
ケイちゃんが喜びそうな番組なんかやってたっけ？
不潔千番でございますわ。
ちょっと待て、勝手に想像して決めつけるんじゃね
え。男の子なら当然です。恥ずかしくないですよ。
You could not patting my head only made me feel worse.
ちょっとこの昼休みは爆睡させてくれ。いや本当マジで。
あら、私が黙って見過ごすとお思いで。
邪魔したら怒る。すごい怒る。
This was just dreadful. Just so sleepy. I slumped my head onto the desk and drifted off into an afternoon nap. It seemed that Satoko had responded, but I pretended not to hear her.
さとこちゃんやめなよ。ケイチくん寝ちゃった。寝がおかい。
後でお持ち帰りしていいか、そっとしときな。
向こうへ移動しましょうです。ケイチにうるさいと悪いですよ。
Nikki-chan really is a good girl.
先生が来ても起こさないであげましょうです。
I take that back. The excuse I didn't sleep much last night because I was watching TV was a lie. I was in bed at the usual time, but because of the conversation with Oishi-san that afternoon, I didn't get much sleep. Just spending the day like this, it's almost as if the incident with Tomitake-san didn't happen at all. Made me think, was Oishi-san just trying to deceive me? But it was probably the truth. One thing was certain, I couldn't speak to anyone about it. He wanted my assistance, but I really didn't know anything about it. If I knew I wasn't going to be of any help, I probably wouldn't have listened in the first place. It ended up with me again, regretting learning something I didn't need to know. If I had never learned about it, I would, without a doubt, be goofing off with the rest of them right now. Couldn't help but resent Oishi-san for this.
それっていつから？
もう次の日にはいなかったって。綿流しの晩に失踪したらしいよ。
Mion whispered to keep others from listening, but I could hear it clearly. On the other hand, Reina's voice was even harder to pick up, but I could still tell that she was quite upset. It couldn't be. Are they talking about Tomitake-san?
さん、けなの？
わかんない。私の知る限りではね。
I have to feign ignorance about this topic because I needed to keep it a secret. Rather than waking up and being forced to lie to join the conversation, it was much easier just to sit here and pretend I was asleep to listen in on their discussion. Wait, why did I have to pretend to be asleep while eavesdropping on my friend's conversation? The guilt stung.
で、他にもいるんでしょうか？
彼女がたたりにあったのか、鬼隠しにあったのかはわかんないけどね。
Onikakushi? Onikakushi? To be hidden away by a demon? What a mysterious phrase. I did, however, get the feeling it meant nothing good.
いや、何せよ。もう一人いるんだよね。だよね。
お社様なら、ね。
でも、今年は出ないよ。
バッチャと村長さんが話してたんだけどさ、今年は事前に警察と話がつけてあるらしいんだよ。何が起こっても騒ぎにしないで穏便に片付けるって。
じゃあ レナたちが知らないだけでどこかで誰かが。
かも。
次はレナかな。
安心しな。レナはちゃんと帰ってきたよ。
でもダメだったんでしょ。
昔の話だよ。もうやめよう、この話。
Amidst the uncomfortable mood, both of them went silent. The entirety of the conversation was still a bit unclear, but a few parts caught my attention. First of all, the term Onikakushi, to be demoned away. By the context it was used in, I would guess it's similar to being spirited away. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen that one. I suspected that was what it meant because Tomitake-san and that woman, it really bugged me that I didn't know her name, vanished after the Watanagashi. The next thing that stuck out was when Reina said, "There's another one, right?" Mion also said, if it's Oyashiro-sama's, yeah, responding to something. If it's Oyashiro-sama's curse, then there had been 2 victims. Is that what she meant? Come to think of it, I remember Mion saying at the beginning that they didn't know if it was from the curse or if it was a case of Onikakushi. It seems that the curse and being demoned away are different things, and they were phenomena that were paired together. I recall Tomitake-san's terrible end. It wasn't something as elegant as disappearing. That horrendous end would be best described as a curse. Then, the woman with him. You mean she vanished because she was demoned away? What I do know is that there's normally an even number of victims of the curse proper. That's true. Right, because other than the foreman, there was the one dam worker, and then well, no, it's kind of been like 50-50, right? Because there was the one foreman, which was the first incident, and then there was the dam worker, or like, they were just like a supporter of the project, I think, who like accidentally fell or whatever, and then like their significant other, something happened to them later. And there was the same thing with the shrine priest that... What happened to them? Something happened to them. I think they just dropped dead or something, and then like their wife took their own life, and then there was the housewife who got beaten to death, but that was a solo one. And the last point that bothered me was Reina. Reina was frightened. For what reason, I didn't know. However, she knew that something had made her a potential target for Oyashiro-sama's curse. If I recall correctly, Oyashiro-sama should be the garden deity of Hinamizawa. Isn't a garden deity supposed to defend the citizens and drive out invaders? If I recall correctly, yesterday Oishi-san said that originally the targets were enemies of the village. But recently, there was no longer any distinction between them or regular outsiders. But if that was the case, then I would think that I'd be the more likely target, having moved here more recently than Reina. From her composure, I could infer that she was grimly certain that she would be next. I should probably relay what I heard just now to Oishi-san. Informing the police of what I heard by eavesdropping on my friends while pretending to be asleep made me feel terrible. It raised a few questions and left me with a bad taste in my mouth. Would it be better not to seek the answers to those questions? As I continued to learn more and more, I felt like I had fallen past the point of no return. I would definitely regret this one day. I would definitely regret ever having learned of these events. In the distance, I could hear the ringing of the handbell signaling the start of afternoon classes. I couldn't sleep at all. I hastily opened my eyes and raised my head up. It was in that moment when I leaned against the back of my seat. There was a thumbtack stuck on the back of my chair with tape. Circumstantial evidence was enough. Guilty without trial. Capital punishment. I fiercely jumped up from my seat, and I tripped as if my feet were tangled up. My shoelaces had been tied together. Teacher came in right as I was about to pull off my shoes and tackle Satoko. Not caring one bit, I made her eat a flick to the forehead. Nah. I saw Satoko stick her tongue out at me. That little brat.
ほら前原くん。
へいへい、さとこさんごめんなさい。
In any case, I apologized, even if it wasn't a completely insincere tone of voice. Damn her. I'll remember this.
ケイちゃんケイちゃん、その恨みは部活でね。着席着席。
I sat down after Mion told me to. She'd switched to class representative mode. With the boring classes finished, school was finally over for the day. Now then, what should we do for our club today? Personally, I would like to play that deduction game one more time. I was hardly able to play it last time because of Oishi-san. Reina and I weren't even able to test our strategy.
そうだね。今日こそケイチ君と2人で大勝利だよね。でもどうでしょうね。同じゲームを続けて2日やった試しはありませんし。ミーにお願いしてみたらどうでしょうです。
Mion looked over her shoulder as we made eye contact. She slowly tapped her palm with her fist as her face suddenly lit up.
いっけね、今日おじさんの手伝いの日だ。悪いみんな、今日なし。
おじさんの手伝い？柄にもなく高校なやつだな。
悪い悪い。ほんとすっかり忘れてた。じゃあごめんねみんな。今日はおじさんこれで帰るわ。
Mion left us with that and rushed off to the exit after snatching up her bag.
ミーちゃんね、たまに街にあるおじさんのお店の手伝いに行くんだよ。
I thought she wasn't the type to get caught in such bothersome stuff.
バイト代が出ると言ってましたですわ。結構なお小遣いになるらしいですの。
I see. She was able to pay for that mountain of games with what she saved up from there.
しかしそれはアルバイトと言うんじゃないのか？校則で禁止されてないか？
家事手伝いは除くと書いてありますです。
Is that what she's calling it? So what now? Pass on the club today?
じゃあ今日はこれで解散かな。
別に部長不在でもいいだろう。やろうぜ部活。
I opened the club locker and began searching for the deduction game from that ever-growing pile of
お、
games.
あったあった。昨日の推理ゲーム。ようやくコツが分かってきたところで中断しちゃったからな。
At the very least, I wanted to repay Satoko for what she did during the afternoon break.
私は構いませんけど、レナさんとリカはどういたします？ケイチ君がどうしてもって言うならちょっとだけいいかな。僕はみんなが揃っての方がいいなと思いますです。
When she says it like that.
部活がないなら僕はお買い物に行きたかったのです。お醤油とかを買いに行きますですよ。あ、そうでしたわね。すっかり忘れてましたわ。ならレナも久しぶりに宝探しに行こうかな。
What's this now? Everyone was no longer in the mood for club activities. If I kept on trying to push the matter, it may make them realize I had a trick up my sleeve. Ah, well, I'll give up this time.
せえ、このゲーム楽しみにしていたのにな。
I shuffled through the cards as if I was still caught up on it.
またの機会に叩きのめして差し上げましたよ。
犯人はサトコ、凶器はピストル。やはり貴様の仕業だったか。
じゃあ
Satoko looked through the cards on the desk and stuck out three of them at me.
犯人はケイチ、凶器はロープで。
ロープなんかいらねえ。このまま締め殺してやら。
ケイチさんの毛玉な。
Phew. Well, I guess it's good that I got that on my system.
ケイチさん、覚えてらっしゃい。いっぱいいたぶられましたですね。かわいそうです。かい。
Everyone got ready to go back home. I also helped gather up the scattered cards. Suddenly paused. They were just the suspect cards, but I noticed something strange. Reina, Satoko, Rika, Keiichi, Mion, Satoshi. Satoshi? Oh, the cards were made by us. Or at least, Every card besides this one has the name of a club member. Does this mean that this Satoshi fellow is a member? Was there someone in the class named Satoshi? I couldn't find anyone named Satoshi on the class roster stuck up on the wall.
ケイチ君、早く片付けよう。
Being rushed by Reina, I finished up quickly. Satoko and Rika-chan had already headed merrily for their lockers, so we were the only ones left in the classroom. Right now, Reina had already gotten her bag and was ready to leave.
レナ、やっぱりこのクラスからも転校で出て行っちゃった生徒って結構いるんだろ？
I tried asking Reina in a bit of a roundabout way. Reina made a troubled face and then answered.
うん、ひなみ沢って田舎でしょ？転校していっちゃう人も時々いるよ。
じゃあこのサトシってやつも転校してったのか？
ごめん、よく知らないの。
There's a bit of a pause, but the answer was pretty much immediate.
その、意地悪で言ってるんじゃないの。ちょうど去年、レナが転校してきてから入れ替わりだったかな。
A convenient excuse.
だからあんまりお話ししたことないの。ごめんね。
I'm not sure. Sorry. Her answer was a lot like when she refused to tell me about the murder at the dam. I was saddened by her denial and felt a bit of anger. I'm their friend, aren't I? Friends don't keep secrets from their friends, do they? Though I do appreciate that they kept that unsettling curse thing from me. But if everyone is worried about it, I'd rather be worried with them. That's what it means to be friends, right? For a moment, I wondered just what kind of face I was making just then, with these mixed feelings of sadness and annoyance.
ケイチ君、怖い顔してる。なんでだろう。なんでだろう。
It was probably exactly the kind of face Reina said it was. It appeared my grim expression had frightened her.
あ、ごめん。今日の部活楽しみにしてたからさ。残念だっただけだよ。
I rustled Reina's hair.
帰ろうぜ。
Dragging that awkward mood with us, we headed home. I wonder why. Why have I been getting this dumb feeling lately? I didn't know anything. I had nothing to worry about. I was just enjoying my everyday life. My long, outstretched shadow gave no answer to my naive inquiry.
ケイチ君、疲れてるのかな？
Reina timidly questioned the reason behind my mood. I'm sure my expression made the situation even more unsettling.
そうか？
うん、今朝からケイチ君、風邪かな？
Physically, I was pretty sure I was in perfect health. It may not seem like it, but I've had perfect attendance since elementary school. Reina continued on since I didn't give her an answer.
きっとケイチ君、引っ越しの疲れが今になってきたんだよ。
Yeah, let's go with that.
前に住んでたところとは全然違うところだもん。いろいろ慣れたり覚えたり、疲れて当然だよ。
そうなのかな？
うん、絶対にそうだよ。レナも最初そうだったから。わかるんだよ。
I wondered if Reina also experienced the slight bit of alienation last year that I was feeling right now. Thinking so, I felt that she was the only one who could understand how I felt.
レナがひなみ沢に転校してきた時の話が聞きたいな。どんなだった？
Feeling I had been drawn into the conversation, her face suddenly brightened.
ケイチ君と同じだよ。人の名前も村の中も全然わかんなかった。みーちゃんとかが親切にしてくれたから全然寂しくなかったけど、やっぱり心細かったよ。
Reina told me all the details of when she had moved here. All of her first acquaintances and surprises, worries and good times.
じゃあレナもサトコにやられたのかよ。
うん、椅子に座ろうとしたらどっさり。そしたらそれを懐かしいな。
ミオンの部活にはいつ頃誘われたんだ？早速初日にか？
最初は部活なんてなかったんだよ。途中からできたの。放課後にみんなで残ってゲーム大会をやろうって言い出して。
そういえばミオン初代部長とか言ってたっけな。納得。
内緒だけどね、みーちゃん最初は弱かったんだよ。全然勝てなかった。
ミオンが？ ちょっと想像つかないぞ。
自分で言い出した罰ゲーム、ほとんど自分でやってたんだよ。本当に内緒だからね。
I can't believe Mion was like that. So she gradually transformed into a monster who used any means necessary to win during that time. Mion is at her best when she's fighting dirty.
みーちゃん以外ともちょっとずつお友達になれて、ケイチくんが引っ越してきてからかな。ようやくここに馴染めたって自覚したのは。
I guess Reina had also been left in the dark about Oyashiro-sama when she had just moved here. I guess when they finally told me about Oyashiro-sama, I'd be considered one of them.
俺はいつになったら仲間だと認めてもらえるんだろうな。
なんて言ったの？
あ、いや、ごめん、独り言。
ケイチくん変なの。
Yeah, I'm just silly. Reina was poking fun and laughing at me, and I couldn't help but laugh as well. But I suddenly stopped. Then, after making up my mind, I spoke.
なあ、レナ、みんなは俺に嘘や隠し事なんかしてないよな。
してないよ、全然。
嘘だろ。
Reina suddenly stopped. Her expression was cold and intense.
どういう意味だろう。
She locked in there for a moment.
ケイチくん。
Her tone was still the same cheery and lighthearted one as
して
before.
るよな、俺に隠し事を。
After understanding what I meant, her expression grew even more intense. Seeing that face, I regretted saying something so rash. But she came back at me in a way I didn't expect.
じゃあさ、ケイチくん。
I don't like that. No. Hey, I don't like that. No. No, 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 no. I don't like that. I don't like the eyes changing like that. Ah, shit. See, something as simple as that. That fucking give me goosebumps. Got me fucking. Woo, hold up now.
ケイチくんこそ、レナたちに嘘や隠し事をしてないかな。
Oh. Oh. Fuck, she got you there, boy.
Eh?
Her tone didn't change. It was the first time I'd seen this expression from Reina. With how her gaze pierced through me, I couldn't believe this was the same Reina.
してないかな。嘘や隠し事してないかな。
Oh, you are. Secrets. She didn't actually say that part, but she looked as if she did. The incident with Tomitake-san, how I felt alienated from the group. Even without having to think about it, there were things I knew that I felt guilty about. But I didn't tell everyone about what happened with Tomitake-san to be considerate. I was keeping it a secret just the same way they didn't tell me about Yashiro-sama. Then, aren't we even?
してないよ、嘘も隠し事も。
嘘だよ。
Her answer was instant and it shook me. Reina stared as if burrowing through me, watching me like a hawk.
どうして嘘だって。
ケイチくん、昨日の部活の時、先生に呼ばれて職員室に行ってたって言ったよね。
See, no one questioned it, but they all knew it was bullshit. Okay. They weren't gonna call him out on it, but now that he's trying to cross the line, they're trying to
レナ
point.
は知ってるよ。ケイチくんは職員室になんか行かなかった。
Yeah, I swallowed hard. Clearly, it wasn't a bluff. She knew what happened.
先生はお客さんが来たって言ったんだよね。
Yep.
でも昇降口ではお話ししてなかった。校門のところの車の中で話をしてたよね。知らないおじさんと。
Reina knew everything. She knew that I was called out by Oishi-san, that I heard about the incident with Tomitake-san as well. Did she know all of it?
誰？
知らない人だよ。
知らない人がなんでケイチくんに。
俺が知りたいよ。
じゃあ何の話をしていたの？
みんなとは関係のない話だよ。
It was a lie.
嘘だ！
Ah! Reina's scream echoed through the trees, sending frightened birds into the air. I couldn't exhale the deep breath I had just taken. No, it's like I wasn't allowed to exhale. It was here I first realized. The person in front of me, she wasn't Reina Ryugu. Then, who was it that was standing before me now? Who had assumed Reina Ryugu's appearance? I'd held my breath for so long I could feel myself suffocating. Then she made a facial expression that Reina normally might have made. Didn't matter that it was Reina's usual smile. It chilled me to the bone. She drew closer to me. I felt her breath against my face. It wasn't the least bit exciting. Whoever this was with Reina's face was going to chew my nose right off. I cowered as I imagined that. Then, she smirked as if she was able to see right through
圭
me.
一君に内緒や隠し事があるようにレナたちにだってあるんだよ。
It was Reina's usual smile, but her eyes were still like that of a hawk's. Bringing her face close enough to mine to almost bump into my nose, she kindly persuaded me. I couldn't nod or shake my head. This person standing in front of me, this person who looked like Reina, frightened me to my core. I was terrified knowing that she could hear the sound of me swallowing nervously. After what felt like an eternity, after a long empty silence, she finally spoke.
行こう。だいぶ涼しくなってきたよ。
It was Reina again. Smiling at me once more, she started walking as if nothing at all had happened. When I was released from her gaze, my legs gave out from under me and I slumped onto the ground. Wasn't able to lift a finger until Reina was out of sight.
あれは誰だったんだよ。
I felt cold. My body was drenched in sweat. I was finally able to form a coherent thought and ask myself once again, who was that person who looked like Reina Ryugu? Interesting. I was out of it and couldn't bring myself to do anything until dinner, except stare blankly into space. Was I terrified from Reina going off on me? No, it's not right. That was someone else who only looked like Reina. Then, who could it have been? It was a dreadful feeling, knowing that there was someone else, not Reina, so tomorrow I shouldn't have a problem talking to Reina like I usually do. That thought was strangely comforting. I concluded that I should just calm down and clear my head, though those thoughts continued swirling around my mind. Finally, I returned to my senses as I heard my mother calling out to me from the bottom of the stairs.
圭一、本屋さんから電話よ。
Bookstore. No. No. Don't be trying to fucking drag me out of the house at night. Can't think of why they'd be calling me. I went downstairs and picked up the receiver anyway.
夜分遅くに申し訳ありません。
Oh, thank God.
私、沖宮書房の
大石さん？大石さんじゃないですか。
ごめんな。ご両親が出られたので、警察ですって名乗ると、いろいろ気分を害されるでしょうしね。
Oishi-san was, in his own way, rather courteous. Even so, I didn't want my parents hearing me talk to the police. Brought the cordless phone with me as I dashed back up to my room on the second floor.
夜分遅くに、実は昨日渡した電話番号の本当に申し訳ない。これから申し上げる番号を控えて。
あ、はい。どうぞ。
He gave me the number for his direct line as I wrote it down. I thought that was the end of it, but he began making pointless small talk and it was pretty hard to hang up. That's gonna come back to bite you in the ass, I know it is. Because now you're gonna have this scrap of paper with his number on it, right? I'm sure you're gonna keep it on your person, right? So it's gonna, at some point, it's gonna like fall out of your pocket or something, or someone's gonna notice a scrap of paper in your pocket, be like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's this number? Where does that lead to? And he's gonna be like, oh, it's nothing serious. They're like, oh, if it's nothing serious, let's call it. Let's call it if it's nothing serious, right?
さて、どうで何か変わったことはありましたか？
I see. This was the real reason. He really beat around the bush there. His adult conversational skills left me slack-jawed.
大石さんはここの地元の方ですか？
ねえ、そうです。生まれも育ちも沖宮ですよ。
If he's from around here, he might know.
大石さん、鬼隠しって何のことか知ってますか？
それはですね、人が鬼にさらわれ、忽然といなくなってしまうこと。この辺り独特の言い回しですね。世間様で言う、神隠しと同じ意味です。
Whereas my friends would say they didn't know when I asked, this older man gave me a direct answer. Made me a bit happy that he answered me directly without trying to hide anything.
平見沢は、前原さんにこんなこと言っていいんでしょうか。
もったいぶらないでくださいよ。大石さんが言わないなら俺も何も言いません。
ああ、いやいや、そういう意味じゃないんですよ。実はですね、ひなみ沢はその昔、鬼の住む里って呼ばれて恐れられていたんですよ。
鬼？鬼って地獄にいる金棒を持ったあの？
というよりは人食い鬼ですな。
Oh,
里に降り
thanks
てき
for the
て人をさ
clarification.
らって食い散らかしてしまう。なんて怖い昔話があるんですよ。
Demons snatching up people is what this Onikakushi really means. Okay, so instead of like how Umineko's story was told with like witches and whatnot, this one's gonna be told with like demons. Okay. There's an actual real grounded in life mystery going on, but it's gonna be originally explained away with demons, huh?
たたりと鬼隠しは一緒に起こるって言ってましたけど、どういうことですか？
I already knew about the mysterious deaths happening 5 years in a row, but I didn't know there were people disappearing for those same 5 years.
たたりと鬼隠しがそれは初めて聞きました。そうなんですか、前原さん。
それは俺が聞きたいで。レナとミオンが話してたんです。お社様のたたりなら必ずたたりと鬼隠しが起こるって。
Oishi-san began hemming and hawing at the other end of the receiver. Maybe something about that came to mind.
前原さん、最初の事件ご存知ですよね。
Did you just suddenly appear in my room? Hey, what happened to the voice filter?
バラバラ殺人。
ええ、6人の犯人のうち1人はまだ逃走中なんですよね。
例えばそれ。逃走中じゃなく鬼隠しにあったんじゃないでしょうかね。
Oh, he has never been caught. You got demoned away. Huh. It was an outrageous hypothesis from Moeshi-san. The incident 4 years ago was the particularly ghastly one. Police already knew the perpetrators, so they posted tons of wanted posters with his face on them. They staked out various locations and investigated every possible escape route he had. But after 4 years, there wasn't even a hint of where he might be. Unless the police were completely incompetent. Even if it was an outrageous hypothesis, I couldn't simply laugh it off.
じゃあその翌年の事故はどうで？誘致派の男と妻が一緒に事故死したんですよね。
実はです。正式には事故死
Yeah,
した
it was only the husband who
夫だ
died.
け妻は死体が上がりませんでしたから。現行法では死体が発見されない限り行方不明扱いなんですよ。
At the time of the incident, with the river below the cliff being muddy rapids, police divers had searched every branch of the main stream of the river for dozens of miles, but in the end they weren't able to find her body.
でも死体が見つからないだけで鬼隠しとは違うんじゃないですか？
死体が出ない以上亡くなったとは言えま
That's
せん。
true.
法律で定めた年月が過ぎるまで生存扱いなんです。
Not sure if it was right to call that being demoned away. The wife is missing. At least that part was reality.
3年目はどうなんですか？神主は病死、妻は自殺ですよ。
Her body was never found. They believe she threw herself into the bog, but they claim that the bog was endless, so there was never
前
any.
原さん、実はね、これも全く同じなんですよ。
Yeah, the wife had supposedly thrown herself into the bottomless swamp deep in the forest around Hinamizawa, meaning it's all circumstantial evidence. They simply found her suicide note in front of the swamp, which honestly, a suicide note can definitely be forged and just placed somewhere. A diver was able to recover a few of her articles, but they weren't able to find a body. The investigative headquarters believed that she had faked her death and was still alive somewhere.
これらを鬼隠しと呼んでいいかちょっとは前原さんの言う通り、確かに毎年一人行方不明になって。
今年の事件ではじゃあ去年の主婦の撲殺事件は誰か行方不明になりましたか？確か犯人は逮捕されたんですよね。
ええ、逮捕され以前に逮捕歴もあるやつでした。別件で取り調べ中に犯行を自供してですが、犯人逮捕からしばらくして被害者宅の子供が行方不明になったんです。犯罪に巻き込まれたのかどうなのか、現在も捜査してます。
Okay. A child. Satoshi? Was that Satoshi? Because it was just last year. And his name was in the suspect cards, right? Satoshi? His mom gets beaten to death, his dad gets thrown in jail, and Satoshi disappears?
だって犯人は捕まそれともその仲間が
さあ、多分単独犯だと思います。もっとも今では確かめようもないんですよ。実はその男、取り調べ中に拘置所内でお亡くなりになって。
What a coincidence. He swallowed a spork and choked to death. Yeesh. Fucking Christ. It's not known whether it was an accident or suicide. I don't know how you could possibly choke on a spork on accident. I really don't. You have to be shoveling food in your face at like rocket speeds at where the fucking spork is just perfectly lined up to fucking go down your goddamn throat. Like, even still, if you're eating, like, you have to very deliberately like tilt your fucking head back and like jam it down your throat for it to get stuck in your throat. If your head is just perfectly straightforward, utensil going straight out, straight into the mouth, it's just gonna hit like the roof of your mouth, or it's gonna, if you go far enough, it's gonna hit like your uvula or some shit, right? And it's just gonna fucking stop there. It's not gonna like get stuck. Like, you could definitely fucking jab yourself plenty of times, I guess, if that's what you're going for, but like, swallowing a whole fucking spork till it gets stuck, like, that, there's no way that's anything but intentional.
つまり過去5年間必ず死者と行方不明者が。
そうなります。いえね、私も驚いていますよ。こんな共通項には気づきませんでした。
Couldn't believe that this could help lead to the closing of those incidents. It was just something they had in common.
例えば鬼隠しにあって失踪した人には何か共通点があるとか。
So there was the wife. There was, what was the one that after the, well, no, first we gotta think there was the original perpetrator of the dismemberment. Then there was the one guy's wife. Then there was the other guy's wife. Then there was a child, and now some random woman? Oishi-san mumbled as he seemed to be thinking about it. So I summarized the events.
1年目はダムの作業員、2年目は誘致派の男の妻、3年目は神主の妻、4年目は被害者宅の子供で、5年目は交際相手かな。特につながりはなさそうだし。
1年目はともかく妻とか交際相手とか、そういう人が目立ちますな。
With the exception of the dam employee and then the child. Does seem like there are a lot. Then that means the fourth year's victim's child was different. It would have really stood out if all were married couples, except it's not just married couples, but parents and children as well. Come to think of it, I believe Tomitake-san also told me the younger brother is alive and has moved, if I recall correctly.
4年目に行方不明になった子供ってどんなだったんですか？
おとなしい感じの方だ。年はあなたの一つ上です。
Satoshi?
名前は北条聡さん。
Hojo. Oh. Is that not the surname of the first? Yeah, of the first, like, curse haver, right? That wasn't the damn perpetrator. Of that initial couple, they were Hojos, right? Huh. Satoshi Hojo. And if I remember correctly, is that not Satoko's surname? Satoshi Hojo.
えサトシ
I remembered that name. Didn't they tell me Satoshi transferred out last year?
あなたの学校に去年まで通っ話を聞いていませんか？
Come to think of it, when I transferred in, I believe they said my seat belonged to a recent transfer student. Then, where I sat, once belonged to the one who was demoned away. It was his seat? I recalled the cold sensation that came from that desk. It made my hair stand on end. The string of mysterious deaths. No. Oyashiro-sama's curse. I now knew how it connected to me. That chilling sensation. It was the feeling of Oyashiro-sama caressing the back of my neck.
お社様のたたりか
Could Oyashiro-sama's curse really exist? No. In all honesty, I was beginning to believe it. Stop that. And I was scared. That was why I wanted to say it was a plot crafted by man and not the work of a curse. But the more I dug into it, the less likely that seemed. That's what they want you to think, bud. No. The more I dug, the more mysterious it became. If I kept digging, eventually, I'd reach the point where I'd learned something I really shouldn't know. I think you've kind of crossed that point already, bud. Like, I think you're in the mess now. To either be none the wiser, or to seek an answer I may regret. Which one would I be happier with? Maybe it'll be me next time. My execution could only be delayed for 1 year. That was when I remembered. Reina. Reina said she may be the next victim of the curse.
竜宮レナさんがです。去年転校されてきた前原さんのクラスメートですよね。女の子には刺激の強い事件ばかりです。怖がるのも無理ないんじゃないでしょうかね。
It wasn't that. She said it might be her next. She said it in a way that made me think she had a concrete reason behind it.
もっと確信じみたものだったなんていうのかその
She was frightened. Her sudden change in demeanor. That someone who looked like Reina, but wasn't Reina. That might be unrelated. All the strange things I felt from Reina today came back to me.
そうです。では、こちらでも少し調べてみます。前原さんも少し竜宮さんの様子に注意してあげてください。
I don't know if I want to observe her right now, Oishi-san. I don't think I want to do that. Hey, so you know how she kind of flipped her shit and got really scary and actually kind of frightened you for a bit to the point you were like holding your breath and weren't able to breathe properly until she left the premises? Yeah, you know, just stay close to her. I don't know, big man.
それはレナを見張れってことですか？
そんな意味ではありませんよ。お友達が次の被害者にならないよう少し気にしてあげてほしいということです。
At that moment, just as my mouth was agape because I was so impressed with his mature, clever way with words. No. Hey, no. A sudden knock at the door set my heart racing. In an instant, I had pointlessly covered up the end of the receiver.
ケイチ、ちょっとここを開けてくれ。
Pops, I don't wanna. Pops, please, no. Oh, God. Because, of course, the moment we mention her name to the authorities, she's at our fucking door. On the other side of the door, I heard my father's oddly upbeat voice. What could it be? Okay, no. So his father is knocking on his bedroom door. That's what's happening right now? Okay, I thought someone was knocking on the front door of the actual house, and his dad was telling him to get the door. It's so late.
すみません、親父が来ました。今夜はこれくらいでいいですか？
ええ、夜分遅くに何か分かりましたら教えてください。こちらも進展がありましたら。では失礼します。
ケイチ、早く開けてくれ。父さん、両手が塞がってるんだ。
What is Dad doing? I had stayed in the same position while on the phone the whole time, so my joints were aching. When I opened the door, I saw my father was standing there with a tray. On that tray, cookies and 2 cups of black tea. Fairly fancy spread for our household. There was even sugar and lemon slices on the side. Everything you could ask for. This was quite the show of hospitality.
何？父さん、それ何のつもりだよ？
もうはぐらかすなよ、ケイチ。 入るぞ。
Dad was in high spirits and had a smirk on his face. But for my entire life, I've never seen him act this hospitable. What had gotten into him?
で、何の話をしてたんだ？
I jumped. It's not something I had to keep from my father. How could I explain to him I was talking to a detective? I'm assuming he was, this late at night.
友達だよ。
電話の話してたんだろう今。レナちゃんが。
She... Oh. Did Mom let her into the house? Like just now? What?
来てないよ。
まあ、さっきレナちゃんが遊びに来てたじゃないか。だいぶ話し込んでるみたいだったから、お茶でもって思ったらすれ違いだったんだよ。
So, okay, so she was just here. She was just here. Oh, that's... Yeah, no, that's fucking awesome. Yeah, no. So, I'm assuming y'all have, one of the, old-timey landlines where anyone can join in on can listen to the conversation simply by picking up a different receiver in the house, right? I'm sure that's what y'all got. Where you can take the cordless phone and go up to your room, but if someone in another room picks up the receiver in that room, they can listen in on someone else's conversation. Right? I had no idea what Dad was talking about, but a cold sweat dripped down my back, as it should.
どのくらい話？
レナちゃんが2階に上がったのが半くらいだったから、小1時間くらいかな。
Oh, even worse. Oh, fucking even... Well, okay, maybe not even worse, because I guess she wasn't hearing everything Oishi-san was saying. But she came upstairs and eavesdropped outside the door during the whole conversation. And then the moment his dad comes around to be like, oh, let me bring y'all some fucking tea or whatnot, that's when she pieces out, because then she knew that, her position would have been revealed. Oh, that's so fucking unsettling. Oh, that's so fucking unsettling.
2階に上がったの。
ああ、見たよ。圭一の部屋は階段を上がって奥の扉だよって。
Thanks, Pops, for letting me know exactly which room was mine. Reina came to my house about an hour ago. Dad met her at the door and called out to me on the second floor. Probably didn't hear him because I was so focused on my conversation with Oishi-san. I didn't reply, but he knew I was in my room, so he had her come inside. Then told her my room was on the second floor. She thanked my dad and went upstairs. Then about an hour passed. She passed by my dad just as he was bringing up tea and left. She came upstairs and about an hour passed. Then passed by my dad and returned home. Then after she came upstairs, and until she left, where was Reina? There's only a short hallway between my room and the stairs. Meaning, Reina had, for about an hour, in the hall. No, she couldn't have been standing in front of my door all that time. The door to my room wasn't particularly thick. You could easily hear everything being said inside. All of the unsettling and unguarded things I spoke to Oishi-san about began rushing through my head.
お父さん、それよりアトリエを片付けて。またこぼすわよ。
Mom yelled up at Dad from downstairs. Dad left the tray with me and went downstairs with a disappointed chortle. I followed my dad out of the room with my eyes. I looked down at the floor around the doorway where Reina might have stood all that time. Just now, as I was talking to Oishi-san, with my back turned, Reina was standing a mere 6 feet away, the whole time. Fuck me, dude. Also, that is not 6 feet away. That is like right behind you. But also, going how this image is set up, it sounds like she definitely could have heard whatever was coming out of the receiver as well. All that time, in this dimly lit doorway. What did she see? What did she hear? Yeah, see, that's the thing. I thought it would have been bad enough, like him just writing down Oishi's number, right? And that would have caused drama later. Holy fuck, I had no idea just how bad it could get. Goddamn. For what reason? As the steam from the 2 teacups ominously wafted and twisted, the aroma of black tea filled my room. And that's the thing. She knew what she was doing. She knew. There was never any intention to come over and just say hi, right? There was never any intention of that. Oh, no. She knew the phone call was happening. She knew there was a phone call happening, and she came over just to listen in on it. She knew. That, oh, fuck me, dude. Oh, fuck. Oh, notice from the police chief. Oh, good God. Fuck, that sentence, fuck. Ah, I'm getting chills, dude. Fuck off. July 1st, 1982. To Departments 1 through 12. Prefectural Police Headquarters. Director General. To the Chief Constable and all facility managers. Regarding cases situated in the Hinamizawa Village, notice. As cases in Shishibone City, Hinamizawa Village have been reported by certain sections of mass media. It has drawn global attention, which is causing serious repercussions for the local residents. This has become a very serious situation. To protect the livelihood and prosperity of the residents, the following notice has been issued. 1. Designate the following criminal investigations as classified. Okinomiya Station 1982, case number Hinamizawa Village housewife murder, dated June. Okinawa Station 1982, case number Hinamizawa Village student disappearance, dated June. Non-disclosure of information. Okinomiya Station 1979, case number Hinamizawa Village site foreman murder, dated June. Shira Station 1980, case number Shirakawa Natural Park falling incident, dated June. Okinomiya Station 1981, case number Hinamizawa Village Shinto priest wife's disappearance, dated June. Requesting self-restraint from each organization concerning the release of sensitive information. Please see attached reference materials 1, 2, and 3. Management, Prefecture Police Headquarters. Internal line, Police Affairs Department. Okay. So, we know that they're intentionally keeping any information regarding Hinamizawa under wraps and classified. I'm very interested to see what his school day is going to be like. Because now, obviously, Reina knows that he's talking to someone about whatever it is. And I'm sure she's going to share that information. Holy fuck, dude. Holy fuck. I'm just very curious what the next day is going to be like. Because there's no way he just goes to school and, like, weariness and a headache. Not a very nice way to start the day.
どうしたの？ケイチ、今朝は顔色悪いわよ。昨べは何時に寝たの？
Seemed that my mom had noticed my sullen state. Yesterday, kept on waking up in the middle of the night. That's completely fucking understandable, bud. Knowing that someone was standing in your fucking doorway or like just outside your door for like a fucking hour and was totally silent, didn't say nothing, just watched and listened and snuck away without you ever noticing. Fuck, that is terrifying. Without a doubt, I felt a presence. I felt the presence of someone standing in front of my door. Yeah, no shit. Told myself repeatedly that was just my imagination and forced myself to try and sleep. Except, not being able to stand it, I gathered up my courage and opened the door. Of course there wasn't anyone there. I think I did this 3 times throughout the night. Or maybe I just didn't remember doing it any more than that. Even though I was able to get to the breakfast table without incident, I still didn't feel at ease.
風邪かもしれない。なんだか食欲ないんだ。
あら、ちょっと熱あるんじゃない？どうする？学校行ける？
Technically, I did go to a school, but it was mostly self-study. It wouldn't matter much if I missed a day, would it? Could have been that I hadn't been feeling well for the last few days because I really did have a cold. If I took some medicine and got a good day of rest, I might be able to greet everyone with a smile tomorrow. I don't like that. I don't like that. Startled, I looked back and forth between the entrance and the clock. It was 10 minutes later than when I usually met up with Reina. It was Reina.
レナちゃん迎えに来ちゃったけど、どうする？
No.
お休みする？
Reina was a good girl. She might be somewhat quirky, but she was certainly cute. Hey, she's definitely cute, I'll give you that much. And she's definitely quirky, yeah, no, I'll give you that much. I think she also might have some underlying psychological issues. And, I think maybe we should, that's the thing, we can't really distance ourselves, because then that's going to draw way too much attention, because she's been, like, our biggest homie this whole time since, you know, we moved out here, but, oh, God. The lunches she made were delicious, and she always looked out for me. Why should I be so scared of something like that? Because you know, you know, you've seen the other side of her. You were made aware of what she did last night. That's why you should be scared. Guess what? Sometimes you find out people aren't all that you thought they were. Oh, but she's just a cute girl who's always done nice things for me. Yes, for like the last number of months. It's been a matter of months. You've known her for months. There's plenty of times where that, I mean, shit, whenever you watch like those goddamn like, murder documentaries and shit, the true crime shit, there's always people testifying or saying like, oh man, they were just such a great member of the community. They're really kind to a lot of us. Like, I could have never expected something like this would happen. Like, their personality don't mean shit when you know there's something more going on at play. You know now. You are now made aware. In the last 24 hours, you have been made aware that there is some fuck shit happening with this girl specifically. I think it's more than valid to be scared of something. It wasn't Reina's fault. I mean, you're probably right. Because like I said, I think there's something psychologically wrong with her, but it was probably mine. No. God damn it, Keiichi. Keiichi, if you wind up fucking dead over this, you deserve it. I'm just saying. Man, I know she kind of like snuck into my house. I guess she didn't really sneak, but she came into my house under false pretenses just so she could, fucking hide outside my room and eavesdrop on my conversation. I know she fucking snapped at me yesterday and went batshit fucking crazy and like became someone I couldn't even recognize, but maybe it's my fault. No. It had to have been my cold. Keiichi. It's one thing. It's one thing to say, man, maybe I just really wasn't feeling well yesterday, so I totally, just was not picking up on the emotions she was putting out. Maybe I totally misread the situation with her yelling at me. For one, given the subject matter of the conversation, regardless of how she spoke to you, given the subject matter, I'd still be kind of wary, but also, you're cold doesn't excuse away her slipping into your house and eavesdropping on your conversation for an hour camped outside your door. That's not something where you're just like, my cold, I just wasn't thinking straight. Like, your cold had no effect over that, my guy. You can't reason away that one. You just cannot reason away that one. It just had to be. Oh my god, Keiichi.
休む。ごめん。
じゃあ母さんが断ってきてあげるわね。
Or is that what he's saying just to... Okay, so is that... He's saying all this shit like, oh, it must be my cold. I definitely have a cold. Oh, for sure I have a cold. All this nonsense because I have a cold. That's why I should stay home. If that's why you're saying that, okay, then I'm with you there, bud. Yeah, no, you... Yeah, wink, wink. You definitely have a cold. You should... Stay the fuck home. Mom headed off to the door. I'd have to pass by the entrance to get back to my room. I didn't have the nerve to meet with Reina, so I wrapped myself in a blanket on the sofa and closed my eyes. I was so sleep deprived I quickly fell into a deep slumber. I had only intended to lie down for a bit, but it was almost noon when I woke up. Called out to my parents, but they didn't seem to be around. On the table, I found lunch prepared and a note. Oh god. Oh god, your parents aren't home? Mom and dad had apparently driven off to somewhere far away. Likely had to do with dad's work. No. Oh fuck, no. That is so fucking terrifying. Lock your doors. I don't know if your front door got a lock on it, but if it do, you lock that goddamn door, bud. You lock your doors. You lock your windows. I love how specifically the dialogue says they drove somewhere far away. They just really had to drive that part home. About not only is he home alone, but his parents are far away. Meaning that even if he could contact him, there's no way they could be back home in time for whatever the fuck was going on. Oh my god. This happened every so often, so it wasn't that unusual. They would be back for dinner, but might be a bit late. On the note it said, the insurance card is in the cabinet, take it and go to the hospital. There was also a well-drawn map to the hospital. That's right. I hadn't been there before, so I didn't know exactly where it was. I had a light lunch, although it really was just leftovers from the morning, and just in case, went to the hospital. Yeah, and let me guess. Normally I'd never be here, in the middle of a weekday. Just walking around like this had me feeling guilty. It was an odd feeling. Following my mom's map, I took a road I usually never used. Driving for a bit, the hospital sign came into view. Irie Clinic was written rather stylishly on the sign. The clinic wasn't very big, but based on the scale of the rest of Hinamizawa, it was far too grand. There was a parking lot and even a reserved spot for buses. They must be making a mint. I spaced out in the air-conditioned waiting room till it was my turn to be seen.
前原さん、診察室へどうぞ。
And let me guess, on your way back home from the hospital, you're gonna run into some people? Maybe not Reina, but might be one of the other homies. After half-heartedly answering all the chatty doctor's questions, he responded with the old, it's probably a cold. He gave me a shot and 3 days worth of medicine. Thought I was a little overboard, but if it would clear away the gloomy feeling I'd been having lately, then it was worth it. I settled the bill and took a quick trip to the washroom. As I was leaving, I overheard a conversation between some elderly people who seemed to be regulars at the clinic. Of course, I had no intention of eavesdropping. It just wasn't for that word.
やっぱり鬼隠しかいね。
どうかまだまだ若い子だ。駆け落ちかもしられへん。どこの誰とよ。季節のたびに東京門が来ちょったろ。でっけえ亀あれと仲が良きゃったって話知られへんの？
Are they talking about Tomitaki-san? I feel my ears perking up.
そら知らんけ。でも普通駆け落ちっても仁義あるだろう。書き置きとか辞表とか書かんかいね。
すったらん書かんから駆け落ち言うんね。
わきゃ看護師さんの顔見られんようなるわ。
高野さんはしっかり者よ。どこへ行ってもやっていけろん。
So her name was Takano-san, that woman with Tomitaki-san. And she worked at this clinic? Ashiro-sama's shadow was following me everywhere I went. Started listening more closely, but they began talking about fishing, and it didn't seem like they were going to revisit the topic. I gave up and left. Thus, even though I was separated from the daily monotony of school, I wasn't able to escape from Yashiro-sama's shadow. But of course, Yashiro-sama was the guardian deity of this place, of Hinamizawa. As long as I was in Hinamizawa, I wouldn't be able to escape. Maybe it was because I was walking outside, but my appetite had suddenly returned. Might as well buy a snack with the change from the examination fee on the way home. Contemplating that, I turned onto a familiar street. At that moment, I heard a car horn abruptly honk behind me. Was I really walking so far into the middle of the road where I'd be in a car's way? I moved farther off to the side, but the horn was still honking at me. Turned around, peeved.
Maibara-san, konnichiwa.
It was Oishi-san. Stepped out of his car, AC on full blast, and waved at me.
今日はどうしたんです？学校はお休み。
ちょっと体調悪かったんで、お昼を買って帰ろうとしてたところです。
そりゃよか。実は私、お昼に行こうとしてたんです。ああ、お体に触るようでしたら構いませんよ。
I was just going to lie down for going home anyway. I didn't really have a cold.
地元の食堂だと嫌でしょう。町まで行きましょう。ちょっと走りますがよろしいですかな？私、おいしいお店知ってるんですよ。
I finally begun to understand Oishi-san's roundabout way of saying things. Probably wanted to talk to me about stuff that would be difficult to discuss while in Hinamizawa. Bro, you probably just saved my life, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm fully expecting Oishi's gonna drop us off and our house is gonna be fucking ransacked or some shit. Oh, I went with Oishi-san riding in his frigid car. It was almost as if the bright sunlight outside was a lie.
昨べは遅くまですみませんでした。ご家族に送られませんでしたか？
いえ。
I recalled Reina, who had been listening to the phone conversation all that time, separated from me by just the door. Even now in the brightness of the sunlight, the thoughts still creep me out. With a big bump that jolted the car, the road connecting to the city changed from dirt to pavement. My head swiveled back with a sudden realization. That's right. This is where Tomitaki-san died.
富武さんの捜査は暗礁に乗り上げています。
Oishi-san spoke while peering at me from the corner of his eye.
自分の爪で喉をかき破るという異常さから、幻覚作用のある何らかの薬物によるものだと信じているのです。こういう症状、それも急激に引き起こす薬物はなかなかないらしいんです。
Is it a pharmaceutical? Is it a pharmaceutical? Because the woman he was with was apparently a nurse. Was it a pharmaceutical? A drug that could cause that to happen so suddenly is extremely hard to come by. Could you come by it in a pharmacy or in a medical setting, let's say?
もちろん、検視解剖もそれを念頭に置いて十分に行ったのですが。
漫画なんかに体内に取り込まれると分解したりして。
ありますよ。演歌作詞、何でしたっけ？まあ、結構あり。でもですね、富武さんのような症状を引き起こす薬物には。
じゃあ、警察は富武さんはたたりで死んだってそう言うんですか？
Couldn't help but feel that the police were worthless. I just wanted the idea of a curse to be disassociated from Tomitaki-san's mysterious death.
悔しいですが、今のところ。ですが、死因はともかく、死ぬ前に何人かの人間に囲まれて暴行を受けたことだけはたたりでなく、
人間が事件に関わっているのは疑いようがありませんよ。
That made me a bit relieved. We passed in front of the rather desolate, but still busier than Hinamizawa, train station. The car pulled into a restaurant parking lot, and I followed Oishi-san into the shop. It was pretty crowded, but there were only adults this hour. Of course, there wouldn't be any children in here in the middle of a weekday.
2名です。タバコは、我慢します。
I still feel like somehow word's gonna get around to the group that Keiichi went into the city with, some guy, some outsider.
こちらへどうぞ。
Even if they're supposed to all still be in school right now, like
ご注文がお決まりになりましたらお呼びください。
we were led by a peculiarly dressed waitress to our table. I sat with Oishi-san in the booth.
どうです、このお店のウェイトレスさんの格好。
まあその、
このお店ね、いっつもお料理よりもウェイトレスさんがね。
Oishi, you dog.
ああ、大石さん、目がやらしいですよ。
そうですか。
So anyway, about the conversation you wanted to have. The reason you dragged me out here. Ooh, dessert menu. Regardless of how the waitresses looked, the food was decent enough. Finishing our meals while talking about some inane topic, Oishi-san's after-meal cup of coffee arrived at the table. Classic.
ひなみ沢の昔話がね。
人食い鬼の里だって言われてたって。
私もあんまり詳しい方じゃないので、うちのおばあ様に今朝ちょっと聞いてみたんです。
Oishi-san took out the notepad that was stuffed into his breast pocket.
なんでもですね、大昔はひなみ沢は鬼ヶ淵って呼ばれてたんだそうです。
Yeah, no, we've definitely seen Onikakushi come up a time or two.
鬼ヶ淵、すごい名前ですね。
今でもその名前、神主の妻が受水自殺した沼の名前は今でも鬼ヶ淵と、沼の底の底は鬼たちの住む国とつながってると言われてたんだそうです。
Of course, nobody had told me anything about such an ominous swamp.
でですね、鬼ヶ淵は恐れられていたと同時に崇められてもいたんだそうです。
A respect born of fear. Guess you could say it was kind of deification. A village of inhuman creatures.
鬼たちはある種の仙人でもあったらしいんですよ。例えば、不治の病にかかった村人を鬼ヶ淵に運んで治してもらったりとかしたんだそうです。
Even if we're calling them demons, Tengu, long-nosed goblins, or Senin would be a more apt description.
鬼って言っても、そんなに悪い人たちじゃないみたいですね。
でもそこはやっぱり人食い。ばあ様に聞いた昔話ではですね、息子を治療してもらった代償として連れてきた母親を食わせろとこうなるらしいんですよ。
Okay. And that ties into the Onikakushi thing, right? Where it's like, in exchange for getting rid of this outsider you don't like, this person you want to get rid of, we also want to take something. And that's how these people end up getting demoned away, right? Interesting. I'm trying to see if I could see a bigger plot here. So there's apparently like a group, some kind of group, right? And like that somehow orchestrates these curses, these cursed incidents that occur every year on the festival. But in exchange for making them happen, they also take someone. The question is, why would they take someone, right? Why not just kill them? Are they people who are already in on the conspiracy, right? So now they get demoned away, but they were always in on it. And they just had an agreement of like they'd be the next person to go. And by go, who knows where the hell they actually went? That's still up in the air. But like, maybe it's some kind of thing, because it's always happening to like wives and whatnot, and to like kids and whatnot. Well, the one kid, but typically it was happening to like wives or someone directly attached, right? So I'm thinking like, like with the dam murder, the original incident, right? It's that guy wanted the other guy dead. They made it happen, and then this guy, and then the guy who orchestrated it disappears, fades away. But then there was the dam supporter, and then his wife. So for all we know, the wife could have snitched on dam supporter guy, gone to whatever this cabal of fucking people is, or been a part of it herself, and said, and like purposefully got close to this guy so that she'd have some kind of deniability, being like, oh no, or like, I don't know, they like purposefully get close to him so they can like find out their true motives maybe, and then he gets murked, he's for sure dead, and she fades away. Same with this shrine priest, right, who wasn't able to do what they wanted him to do, right? I forget exactly what the situation was, but he like wasn't accomplishing what people wanted him to accomplish or something or other. And this woman who just happened to get close to him maybe then reports back to the fucking secret organization or whatever, the secret society. I wonder if it's the fucking, what do they call them? It had the Onikakushi thing. It was like the Onikakushi like warriors or guardians or some shit. That was led by, I'm pretty sure it was led by one of Mion's parents. Or at least someone who shared her last name. I don't know the actual relation. If it's in connection to that, where they then go, okay, this guy clearly is not only an outsider, right? Someone who's actively trying to potentially harm the village. And he goes away. And I think in the case of the housewife, the actual like this one, the genders were reversed, but like the husband finds out that the wife isn't ride or die for Hinamezawa or whatever, considers her a potential liability to the village. And so even though he gets caught, he sets something up with this like secret group to where he says he's going to do this thing, and that in exchange he'll take the fall and take his own life in prison. And then I guess this child was left without a family, so instead of having the child leave the village, then I don't know, the society took in the child, mayhaps. And who knows what happened to this child, right? It was Satoshi Hojo, right? Which, by all means, we think that should be connected to Satoko in some capacity. And honestly, their names kind of are similar. They got the same 2 starting syllables. And now, with this most recent incident, right? Takano was this, nurse at the hospital that everyone, liked, apparently. But, like, they saw this outsider, Tomitake, digging his nose where it shouldn't be. So all of a sudden, Takano starts warming up to him. She comes up with whatever plan, or she and this secret group come up with some kind of plan to then have him taken out, and she disappears. So she can't be tied back to it. I think that's the biggest thing, is like these people get close to him, but then they're demoned away so that they can't be investigated. So that what would be arguably the biggest lead, right? Because in a lot of these, murder cases, the number one suspect, or like one of the biggest prime suspects, is always like, their partner, right? Their significant other or their boyfriend or girlfriend, what have you. That's always like the first one they look at. And in the case of the housewife, that is what happened. That is who killed her. But then he takes himself out, almost as if he knew something. Almost as if he himself was trying to cover something up. If he stuck around in prison to where people could question him some more, try to get that information out of him, then maybe the whole operation falls apart, so he takes himself out. And maybe this was part of the agreement, with this secret society, that he would take himself out in exchange that they would take care of his kid. And wouldn't, fade away into some orphanage and be, following the system. They'd still get taken into Hinamizawa somewhat. The question is, where did the kid end up? That is the question. And see, that's the thing I'm starting to think about. Is like, now Keiichi's the outsider, right? Oh shit. And Reina thought she would be the next one to be demoned away, right? Reina thought she would be the next one to be demoned away. Reina was the one getting close to Keiichi, right? Really warming up to him. They're having a nice little moment. He won the fucking big stuffed teddy bear for her at the festival, right? They seemed like quite the item, didn't they? But now she's found out that maybe Keiichi's a liability for Hinamizawa. And that's why she's so scared of being the next one to be demoned away, because she knows she's the one connected to Keiichi. She's the one that was like planted to like get an eye on him. Because, she couldn't be planted on, the parents, because they were already, this loving couple. You couldn't get someone in there like that. You couldn't plant someone in there. No, I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see it. I don't have all the pieces yet, but like, I feel like, in the grand scheme of this puzzle, I'm starting to connect some edge pieces and the picture's starting to come together a little bit. And that means the other kids are also aware, which would make sense. Obviously, Mion being connected to, one of the big prominent families. I don't know what position her family actually holds, other than that they were a prominent player in the protests and a big part of the, Onikakushi Guardians, I think was the title. So clearly, if the Onikakushi Guardians are like the ones behind this, then obviously the Sonozakis are playing a big role in all of this. But also we know the Hojos are, deeply connected to this, in that they were part of two of the incidents. It was the first couple after the dam murder were Hojos, and then the housewife incident was a Hojo incident, or at least the child from the housewife incident was a Hojo. We do know that. And then Rika would be tied to the shrine priests, because those are both Furudes. So like, clearly our whole group of friends, right, is in on this, are maybe not in on it, but are definitely connected. We know for sure that Mion and Reina are in on it. They're connected in some way. That's why Reina is scared of being demoned away, because she has some insight into what the hell's going on, which I think makes sense given to how close she tries getting with Keiichi. Because if you look at all the other incidents, aside from the initial dam murder, a lot of it seems like they plant someone to get close to them, take them out, and then the person that takes them out gets mysteriously vanished away. God damn. Nah, I definitely think I'm onto something here. Cause that's the, I mean, I'm starting to think about, like, I'm thinking that whoever it is that gets close to them has to be the one to do it, right? Which is why they're like, oh, Tomitake, that's why they plant Takano, right? That's why they plant her. I'm sure they had some idea prior. So they're like, hey, you have access to, pharmaceuticals and medicinal substances that could potentially cause some kind of reaction, right? To where we could actually take down this very muscular, veteran, this very, well-built athletic man. That's why she had to step up and be the one planted there. But a lot of these other cases, it seems like, oh, they claim that the wife fell off with the husband, into the water in the first incident. Yeah, only the husband's body was recovered, the wife's body was never there. So what probably happened? Wife pushes husband into the river, and then this secret society is able to, like, that's the thing. Where are the people going? That's the one thing about this theory that I don't quite have an answer for, other than, like, they're like somehow given new identities and sent elsewhere. But even then, I still feel like, with all the shit, well, that's the thing. A lot of things regarding Hinamizawa are classified. We saw that from the police notice, right? So, like, if they got you outside of the village, potentially you'd be fine. If they got you away from Okonomiya, you should be fine. Because after... Fuck. When did they say they stopped giving out information? I think it was prior to Tomitake's incident, I think. I think it was after the fourth incident, because those ones were actually mentioned by name. And they even said there was the tip that the housewife murder never actually made it to the tabloids. The press never actually reported on it. It never got any mass media attention. The Hojo family and the Furude family, that actually got media attention. The housewife one didn't. So it was at some point in there where they said, stop giving information to the press. Withhold information regarding Hinamizawa. So in that way, they're able to, I'm guessing, move people out of Hinamizawa, out of Okonomiya, away from Okonomiya, far away enough to where no one would have any idea of what even went on in Hinamizawa, and they're just out there. They're just out there living a new life with a new identity. That's my running theory as of now. That's the only thing I can really come up with. Because from what we can tell, it doesn't seem like they've been brought back into the village, right? Because clearly the police are going to be coming around every year with these curse things, so they can't just be, casually brought back into the village, or else the police would recognize them. So clearly they have to just leave the village entirely. Okay, I'm starting to see it, though. I'm starting to see the pieces come together. I think the real question behind all of this is how. The how. How are they orchestrating this? How are they able to get these people out of Hinamizawa, right? And if they're not getting them out of Hinamizawa, where are they? That's the biggest question, is these people who got demoned away, I can see their potential connections to these things. I can see what their role in the murders are. But where are they going? That's the real mystery right now for me. I feel like I pretty well understand how all the other things are going. That's the one thing I'm still wondering, like, how are they moving them? Where are they going? Anyway, been ranting for a bit. Let's keep going.
息子を治療してもらった対価が自分ですか？それは怖いな。
もちろん母親は息子を連れて逃げます。これをですね、鬼ヶ淵に住む村人、鬼たちがですね、全員で追いかけて取り囲んで捕まえたんだそうです。
Zombie tag. Remember zombie tag. All the village, the entire village, apparently. The entire village. Remember zombie tag. When everyone is after you, you act like you're one of them. Or someone is going to act like they're one of them and potentially be an ally? Well, no, they're not an ally because they're also working against you, but they're also not part of the horde. They're orchestrate. Is that the comparison to draw? Because we know Mion, the Sonozaki, is the one who kind of blended in with the horde of zombies, who wasn't actually part of the zombies, but she definitely had a big hand in orchestrating everything. That's quite a frightening thing to imagine. Yeah, remember zombie tag?
結局、母親も息子も捕まって食べられちゃったんだそうです。おしまい。
その話、当事者の2人が食べられちゃったんですから、その話が残るはずがありません。
ありゃ。昔話はこういうの多いですよね。
In contrast to the ghastly tale, Oishi-san laughed heartily while sipping his coffee.
でもですね、他の昔話にも鬼ヶ淵の鬼たちが総出で獲物を捕まえに来る。
Yep, they band together. I recall that Mion said all the villages united and fought against the dam construction. I saw similarities with how that part about unification overlapped.
鬼たちの獲物は常に一人で、しかも前もって決められているらしいです。
That caught my attention. Oishi-san also appeared to be pondering what it meant.
ばあ様が言うにはですね、鬼の狩りの時には絶対に邪魔をしてはいけない。
The demon's hunt.
家に閉じこもって布団をかぶってろって言うんです。
Meaning that the rest of the village are probably well aware of all of this, but they turn a blind eye to it and just let it happen because they believe it's for the better of the village.
つまりどういうことですか？
獲物の人を助けたり、かくまったりしてはいけないんだそうです。鬼の狩りを邪魔しない限り、村人には危害を加えない。そういうルールなんだそうです。
Basically, don't help the victims. Pretend you didn't see the atrocities. In other words...
ルールを破ったら
さあ、何しろ人食い鬼ですからね。
Many parts of that tale caught my attention. Parts of the story he told me overlapped with this theory that the entire village was in on the crime. Yeah. Even if it wasn't the whole village, it was conceivable that the villagers were hiding under the covers and leaving them to die when there's a group that was on their hunt, wasn't it? I didn't dare speak it.
じゃあ大石さんはやっぱり村ぐるみ。
前原さんはどう思います？ああ、すみます。コーヒーのおかわりいいですか？
That's what I wanted to know. It seemed that we were both waiting for the other to say that last part. He waited for the waitress to finish pouring coffee before speaking.
去年、サトシ君が失踪した頃から私は不審に感じていたんです。
Oichi-san muttered as he watched the milk swirl around in his coffee.
それで サトシさんのお友達。つまり本当にちょっぴりだけですよ。調べさせてもらったんです。
If Oishi-san had said this to me before, I would have gotten angry at him for calling my friends into question. But as I was now, I
と
couldn't.
てもつまらない。前原さんがつまらないと感じ、終わりにしますので。
Oishi-san was wearing the most serious expression that I'd ever seen from him. It was as if he was telling me to prepare myself and listen. There were quite a few things I regretted hearing from Oishi-san, but none of them were as threatening as this. The little voice inside me was screaming like an alarm. Stop, Keiichi. This is probably the last one. Took a deep breath and silenced that voice. I would not run from the truth.
お願いします。
That was all I could utter. Oishi-san stared into my eyes silently for a few moments. After he was certain I was ready, he began.
1年目の事件の被害者は現場の監督さんだったんですが、事件の数週間前に園崎美音さんと取っ組み合いをしてるんですよ。何度か。
Oishi-san had said before that Mion had defied the dam project vehemently. Well, it wasn't hard to imagine how she'd be if she got worked up.
2年目の事件で誘致派の夫婦が事故に、現場にはお嬢さんも一緒にいたんです。それが北条聡子さんなんです。
え？聡子って聡子？
Oishi-san's look told me that my voice was too loud. I realized it as well and quickly quieted down.
3年目には神主、そのお嬢さんが古出里香さんです。
リカちゃんが
4年目に亡くなった主婦は北条聡子さんの義理の叔母です。当時は聡子さんはご両親を事故で失っていましたので預けられていたのです。被害者宅に
I could tell my lips were getting dry. Didn't even have the wits to keep my mouth from hanging agape. I thought it was nothing but a bizarre incident, one that I could easily distance myself from. But clicking and clacking, it snuck all the way to my feet.
ちなみに4年目に失踪した北条聡さんは聡子さんの実の兄になります。
そのちょっと待ってください。
Took everything I had to finally say that. I gulped down a glass of water and once again wiped my face with a napkin. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. But Oishi-san was relentless. Instead of waiting for me to finish sorting out my feelings, he started speaking again. Last of the things I shouldn't have heard. Reina.
被害者たちはなぜか
偶然に決まってるじゃないですか。
前原さん、みんな見てますよ。
Mion? Satoko? Rika-chan? So what if they're connected? You're telling me all of my friends? It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. Oh. Reina is different, isn't she? Reina isn't connected with the victims at all. Yeah, that's what you'd like to think. But Reina herself said that it wasn't until about the time Keiichi came around that she felt really part of the group, right? She said she herself kind of felt alienated, kind of felt left out, didn't really feel part of things. Until right around the time Keiichi came around. And suddenly she felt like she was a part of things. She was really a member of the group, let's say. That's the thing. Reina isn't connected with the victims at all. Yet. From what we know, yet. Reina isn't connected yet. We actually don't know if Reina is connected or not. Because I think she's meant to be a part of a different plot. Not quite this year's.
竜宮レナさんは去年まで茨城の郊外にお住まいでした。まあ確かにいずれの被害者とも直接の面識はありませんが。
He said it in a roundabout way. Is he saying she's also connected?
実は調べてみたら竜宮さんは引っ越しの少し前に何でも学校中のガラスを割って回ったんだ。
Yeah, she's got some kind of psychological problem.
レナが学校中のガラスを割った？
That same spacey Reina had. Couldn't even imagine it.
3日間の謹慎が明けた後も
その間に神経科に通院し、自律神経失調症と診断され、何週間かの間、投薬と医師によるカウンセリングを受けています。
I'm going to Google that. I'm sure Keiichi's about to ask what that even means, and Oishi's going to explain it, but I want to look that up. Dysautonomia is a often chronic dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system that impairs involuntary functions like heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, and temperature regulation. It causes symptoms like fainting, dizziness, tachycardia, fatigue, and digestive issues, often diagnosed via tilt table tests. Affecting over 70 million people is managed with life. Okay. Huh. Well, that's interesting. So it's not quite what I was thinking. But it impairs functions such as heart rate and blood pressure. I'm trying to think about how that connects to what we know of Rena. Let me see here. Yeah, from what I can see of what they tell of the symptoms, that doesn't really seem like something that would cause a significant, like, psychological change. That just seems like some medical condition that, you know, I don't see how heart rate and blood pressure would affect her going fucking psychotic sometimes. I wonder if it was something like a nervous breakdown. Well, see, that's what I'm thinking, like some kind of like psychological thing, but that doesn't seem to be what dysautonomia is. I'd heard that it happens to people who are really methodical or overly sensitive. Okay. I could see that, maybe. She was unable to control her heart rate, or her blood pressure was unable to regulate it properly. And it caused her to... I don't know. Granted, I'm no fucking medical professional, so there's no way I could be like, yes, I see exactly what the issue is here. But, that's not quite the answer I was expecting. Neither of those matched Reina's easygoing personality. Probably because she's on meds, if I had to guess. Probably because she's very medicated. And, if she, I don't know, forgets her meds or something. Or maybe it's, because that's the thing. It, like, maybe if there's like some kind of trigger, right? It takes some kind of trigger for her to get, like, for something to happen. Because that's the thing. We saw her personality like just change like that. Like it was nothing. We saw that happen. To the point where Keiichi thought she was someone else entirely. And see, that's the thing that I don't understand, to where it's like, how is that caused by heart rate or blood pressure to where you just become someone else entirely? Once again, I'm no fucking medical professional, but like in my little skimming I just did on Google, like nothing popped up or anything about how it could lead to like something severe as what we've seen out of her.
でですね、そのカウンセリングをした医師のカルテにレナさんの会話内容がその中に出てくるんですよ。
結
構。
何がです？
I pressed forward carelessly. There couldn't be anything more for me to regret. Homicidal tendencies?
出てくるんです。お社様って単語が。
So you're telling me, before she even moved out to Hinamizawa, she was saying the word Oyashiro-sama. I felt like someone's stone-cold hand was caressing my back. Why had Reina spoken of Oyashiro-sama before she even came to Hinamizawa? Here's the thing. My best guess is that she is in some way connected to someone who got disappeared in one of the incidents. And the only one I could think of that would make sense would be the very first incident. Was she in some way connected to that person who murdered the damn foreman? And maybe she went with him? Maybe she was already someone who was in Hinamizawa? And maybe her records had been altered in some way, shape, or form. That's, really going deep into the conspiracy, but like, otherwise it wouldn't, that's the thing, it would not make sense. Interesting. Because that's the thing. If we had to wager a guess of how old the students are, I think Mion is a year older than the others, from what I understand. I believe at least a year older than Keiichi and Reina specifically. Rika and Satoko are much younger from what I understand, but I believe Mion is a year older than Keiichi and Reina. I believe that is the case. Now, we don't know how old they are for sure, but we do know that they're teens, and we do know that 4 years ago, in 1979, Mion was getting into altercations with a damn foreman, which would make me think she was, somewhat older already. Like, it wouldn't make sense, like, if they're 15 now, or like 15, 16, like, would 12-year-old Mion really be getting into altercations like that? Doesn't really make sense. But maybe you bump that up a couple years. But even still, like, if they're in high school, and God, even if we say 18, like, if Mion's 18 and she was like 14 starting shit with people, that's like kind of hard to believe a 14-year-old doing. But then again, if she's raised as a Sonozaki, who's a prominent family in the Onikakushi Guardians, like, maybe. I don't know. It's a tough one. That's a tough one. But we do know that Mion is connected in some capacity. She had altercations with that damn foreman. Right, because the whole thing I'm trying to figure out, right, the whole reason I was even trying to figure out Mion's exact age is because I want to know what Reina's age is. Because, like, how old, if she was a former resident of Hinamizawa who moved out and was moved back in, how old would she have been? And if she's like 16 or 17 right now, that means she would have been like, 12 or 13, maybe even like 11-ish around the time of the dam murder. So it's definitely something she would have remembered. It's definitely something that would have stuck with her, especially if she did have some kind of connection to the person who murdered the foreman. That's definitely the biggest thing that's throwing a wrench in all of this right now is like, what's Reina's connection? Because she's telling Keiichi that she didn't feel part of the group for about a year, which I feel means, being included in everything going on in the village. Feeling like someone who's in on like the actual group, right? The actual secret society going on. As we've already kind of figured that Mion, Satoko, and Rika are, and have been. If we try to read between the lines of what Reina said to us, and that's what it feels like. She didn't feel actually a part of the secret group until recently. But if she was already connected in some capacity, the fact that she knew of Yashiro-sama and was speaking about it before moving to Hinamizawa is something I struggle to find an explanation for. That I feel like can't just be debunked right away. Because, like, even if she had her name changed, that's the thing. It would take something drastic, like her having her name changed, her identity, changed, having documents altered and whatnot, to where the police wouldn't be able to easily track her, right? If that was the case. Which I guess could lend to the thought that she felt kind of ostracized from the friend group until recently, because they were still struggling to come to terms with her new identity, mayhaps. But that's the thing, it would take something of that level, otherwise the police would simply realize via like last names or looking into, records and whatnot, and Oishi definitely seems like the kind of guy who would dig in like that. Especially after finding out that after Reina's nervous breakdown, apparently, that she started speaking about Oyashiro.
おやしろ様っていう幽霊みたいなものがですね、夜な夜な自宅にやってくるっていうんですよ。枕元に立って自分を見下ろすんだって。
Can't imagine that feeling. My mind froze. I couldn't process what I was being told.
その後、しばらくしてひなみ沢にそうそう、レナさんは住民票で分かったんですが、竜宮一家は
Oh, well, there you fucking
ひな
go.
み沢の住人です。
You could have led with that, Oishi. I'm sitting here trying to fucking piece together. It's like, oh yeah, the Ryugu family did used to live in Hinamizawa. Like, she's not an outsider. She was actually directly connected to Hinamizawa. I'm sitting here like really trying to dig deep and ponder what's going on here. It's like, oh yeah, no.
レナさんがちょうど小学校に上がるときに茨城へ引っ越されたんです。
How old is everyone then? What do you mean just as Reina entered elementary school? So you're telling me she moved away before the incident ever happened? Because just as Reina entered elementary school. So that's either like kindergarten or first grade, which would mean you're like 6 or 7. But now she's like a teen, which by the most strictest definition of teen, at the youngest she would be 13, which would indicate, if she was 6 or 7, it has been then 7 or 6 years, 6 or 7 years since moving, but the first incident took place 4 years ago. So why would she be so terrified of Oyashiro-sama if she was living there before the curses ever took place, before there ever was the curse? Like, obviously we know that Oyashiro has been the village deity for years upon years, sure, but to actually be like terrified of Oyashiro, like, I feel like that wouldn't be the case if it was before the curses started happening. My mind went completely blank. It was similar to the static you'd see on a blank TV channel. My ears began ringing as I lost all sense of comprehension.
前原さん、大丈夫ですか？もう終わりにしましょうか。
Those words brought me back. I couldn't let it end here.
レナのことはわかります。じゃあその最後の誰と接点があるんですか？
Irritated, I let out one final reprisal.
全員ですよ。
Yeah. Obviously. He was with us at the festival.
お忘れですか、前。みんなで楽しくお祭りの晩を過ごしたじゃないですか。
We all spent the night together at the festival, and then we know that he was assaulted by several people.
何人もの警官が皆さんの楽しそうな様子を見ていますよ。
Now there was nothing I could respond with. I fell silent as my brain turned to mush.
そろそろでもなあ、前原さん。お昼の薬は飲みましたか？
I completely forgot about the medicine I had gotten today until Oishi-san said that. Got another glass of water and we left the shop after I chugged it down. We got in the car and returned to Hinamizawa via the rough road. Never really paid attention when I was on my bike, but do cars normally shake this much? It was almost as if the road was desperately trying to tell me something. Turn back! The big jolt was from the difference in elevation of the road when it changed from cement to dirt. I was certain that I heard Tomitaki-san scream. I sat in silence, just letting myself be shaken by the car.
お家の前まで送りましょう。今日は病気で長々とお話ししてしまって。
なんで俺に話すんですか？
I blurted out the question. Really just blurted it out. I didn't expect an answer.
私、一応お話やめましょう。
じゃなくて、どうして俺に接触してきたんですか？
I understood quite well that Oishi-san was investigating the string of suspicious incidents. Why was he telling me all this? Does he already suspect that you're next? I knew nothing and I couldn't help. Everything Oishi-san spoke of was news to me. First of all, what could I, having just moved here, possibly know? He wants you to know because he thinks you're next and he wants you to be as informed as possible. That's it, isn't it? Oishi-san already has an idea of who's next, and he's trying to fucking keep you safe. By chance, if there was a reason for Oishi-san to reach out to me, it would have to be that I was part of Mio's circle of friends who looked suspicious to Oishi-san.
私ね、定年したらばあ様の意向で引っ越しちゃう予定なんですよ。だからこそ在職中にこの事件だけははっきりさせておきたかったんです。
で、みんなを。
Oishi-san didn't really give a response. It felt a little late, but I thought it was his way of showing a bit of consideration for my feelings.
これはこの道30年の前原さん。危ないのは
Yup.
あなたなんですよ。
I wanted to reply with that's absurd, but in my downtrodden state, I couldn't bring myself to say it.
私は今年で定年ですから、来年の綿流しの日にはもういません。
There's going to be no one to save you.
だから今年中に決着をつけたいのです。
In other words, he was insinuating that on the next Watanagashi, I might be the victim.
所長からも注意を受け、一連の事件は個々に解決しているから、これは一種の圧力です。
圧力って？
ひなみ沢の誰つきました。この辺でいいですか？
After some time, the car finally reached the path to my house. The clock read 2 p.m. Surprised so little time had passed since we ate. It was hot outside the car. The chirping of the Higurashi hurt my ears.
今日の話はすべて忘れてくですが、お社様のたたりは今年で終わらせます。
何かあったら連絡しろってことですか？
いいんですよ。前原さんが どうしても連絡したくなった時だけでいいんです。
I wasn't collected enough to understand Oishi-san's roundabout way of saying it.
ゆっくり休んでください。病気でお休みの時によくない話ばかりして申し訳ありませんでしたね。
I didn't really give any sort of response.
私はいつでもそれだけは信じといてくださいよ。
Fuck, I believe that more than anything. I'll be quite honest. I ain't never been the type of motherfucker to trust a cop, but you know what? If I believe that anyone's on my side, it's this motherfucker right here.
それじゃあ、失礼。
The tires crunched over the dirt road as the car made a U-turn and disappeared into a cloud of kicked up dust. Okay, but someone totally saw it, right? I feel like I was watching a boat only throw me a lifesaver in shark-infested waters before disappearing into the distance. That was the first time I thought Oishi-san was being unfair. Telling me I was going to be the next victim, then just saying to contact him if something happened. This wasn't a criminal investigation. He was fishing. And I was just the bait dangling off the line. Would the fish be the perpetrator? Or was it really just Oyashiro-sama's curse? Either way, the bait would be swallowed whole.
畜生。俺、死にたくないよ。
For some time, we could do nothing but stare at the puddle of water left behind by the AC from the car. Yeah, but they're gonna find out. They're gonna find out that you got in a car with the stranger and you drove into the city. Especially because someone's putting pressure on Oishi to not look into things. So much pressure that the police chief is being like, hey, the cases are closed, knock it off. Fuck, dude. And that's the thing, I'm starting to think, like, we're not even going to make it to the next Watanagashi before things go south. Because already Reina's getting really fucking crazy. And as far as I could tell, she's supposed to be the one to murk us. I wonder how much time had passed since I laid down. It was getting dark outside. My body was soaked in sweat. It would probably be a good idea to change my sheets. No! At that moment, the phone downstairs rang. It was probably Mom. Mom was quite the worrywart. I was thinking, it is probably Mom saying like, oh, hey, something came up, sweetie. We're not going to be able to be home tonight. Maybe she had called many times, but I just didn't notice it.
もしもし、前原ですけど。
お、生きてた。もしもし。
That's not good either. That's not good either. They know I'm home.
ミオンだけど、具合はどう？
圭一のお友達ですか？圭一は休んでますけど、変わりましょうか？
お父さん、すみません。
バカで、引っかかってやがる。
After our exchange, we both had a good laugh together. Except I was suspicious of her even as we were laughing. Was everybody really involved in the incidents? The fact that I couldn't say no saddened me.
元気そうで安心したよ。レナもすっごく心配してたよ。サトコはざまあないですわって喜んでたな。リカちゃんは病気でかわいそうです。
チェ、みんなでか。
まあ、お見舞いに行っちゃ都合悪いかな。
Yep. Right now it's a bit terrible time. I'm recovering. I'm resting. Stay the fuck away. Stay the fuck away. Stay the fuck away. You stay the fuck away. You stay the fuck away. I don't have any parental supervision. You stay the fuck away. I don't got anyone to help me out if shit goes south. You stay the fuck away.
お見舞い？いいよそんな。
うちのバッチャが山ほどおはぎを作ってさ。
What a convenient excuse. You stay the fuck away. Oh no. She's gonna get up in our fucking face. Because Reina knows, and obviously Reina's gonna share what she knows with Mion. So now Mion's gonna be, under the guise of like an innocent little visit, is gonna come in and be like, get all up in our face and be like, if you know what the fuck is good for you, you are going to stop. She's gonna give us a warning, right? She's not gonna like beat our ass, right? But she's gonna like get all up in our face and be like, and give us a very stern warning, like, if you do not fucking stop, bad shit's gonna happen to you, bud. I don't want bad shit to happen to you, bud. But if you do not fucking knock it off, if you don't keep your nose out of the fucking business, you're done for.
お裾分けに持ってけって言ったから持ってくね。
おい、風が移っても。
おじさんもレナもおバカさんだから大丈夫。
Reina and you, that's a definite no. That's a definite no. Reina's coming along too? Oh god, I'm getting tag team now. Now they're both gonna get all up in my face. I'm gonna have two of them fucking threatening to take me out if I don't. Oh no. Oh no. She hung up cheerfully. Reina's coming too? That's what it sounded like. Still concerned about meeting Reina, but I guess if she was with Mion, that just makes it worse. That just makes it, I mean, that makes it slightly better, because with Mion there, I don't think Reina's gonna fucking lose her shit, right? I don't think she's gonna, like, snap. If she gets, like, close to that, Mion can probably rein her in. But, like, I still fear for my safety. I would still fear for my safety in this situation. I heard the doorbell 10 minutes later. Or maybe it's not gonna be, like, a direct threat, but she's gonna be making small talk, and every so often she's gonna, like, put a lot of emphasis on a certain phrase that, like, is very obviously trying to say, keep your fucking nose out of our business. Now I really hate the fact that you have a gun. I'm gonna be so for real with you, girl. The fact that you're showing up with a gun is very unsettling now.
ちゃんと薬飲んで寝てた。
そりゃもうしっかりとな。
元気そうでよかった。心配してたんだよ。
Yeah, did you take your medicine and rest? You didn't get up to anything at all today, right? You weren't like, you know, you didn't leave the village or anything. You didn't go into the city for some reason. That'd be silly, right? You were supposed to stay home and rest, right? You're not up to anything, are you? No? Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, I wasn't trying to accuse you or anything. I was just curious, making sure. Heard some things. Just wanted to make sure.
悪かったな。明日にはもう大丈夫だよ。
You know, showed a complete lack of concern for someone who's recovering, and Reina looked like she was worried about me from the bottom of her heart. Didn't look like there was anything behind those expressions.
ちょっとお邪魔しようかと思ったけど、まだ本調子じゃないみたいだ。
そうか?
Seeing my face appeared a bit sullen.
じゃあこれ、みーちゃんのおばあちゃんが作ってくれたおはぎだよ。
Reina held out the package wrapped in newspaper. Maybe about 5 in here. It was quite hefty.
あ、サンキューな。ミオンのばあちゃんによろしく伝えといて。
あ、その中にね、レナが作ったのも混じってるんだよ。
Oh no. So you're saying I'm playing Mochi Russian roulette here? So, yo, he said there was 5. So 4 of them are totally normal ones that her grandma just cooked up, right? But one of them.
ケイチ君に見つけられるかな。
これ、今日の部活を欠席したケイちゃんへの宿題ね。おはぎにアルファベットがついてるから、明日回答すること。
お見舞いなのか部活なのか、どっちかにしろ。
元気元気。これなら明日は大丈夫そうだね。
この騒ぎで熱がぶり返したらどうしてくれんだよ、まったく。
みーちゃん、あんまり騒いじゃ悪いよ。もう行こう。お家の人にも怒られるよ。
Both of them thought my parents were home. Don't say it. It was because the entranceway was a mess.
そうだね。もう行こっかね。あ、そうそう。
なんだよ。
Music's gonna cut out. Yep.
お昼、何食べた
？Damn, who would have guessed? Damn, who could have seen that coming? What did you eat for lunch? The moment she said just one more thing, I was just like, oh yeah, music's gonna cut out. She's gonna fucking deliver a line that just tells us she knows. The subject question startled me, and I went wide-eyed when I saw Mion. I had never seen her like that. It was a highly unsettling visage. Why is she asking me about what I ate for lunch? What she said was so inane, it was almost meaningless. The way she said it, it was almost like she didn't even care at all about what I ate.
表で食べたよ。
She must have suspected that I was with Oishi-san. Anyway, I felt that if I hesitated or tried to change the subject, then they'd read too deep into it. So I tried answering as quickly as possible. Except, contrary to the efforts I had made, There was a pause before they replied. Yeah, is Reina gonna lock in too? Yep.
ケイチ君、お昼は外食だったんだね。
Even though you're feeling ill and you should be recovering? The glimmer from Reina's eyes had changed at some point as well. It was now sharp, as if to make me feel the feigned ignorance behind her words even more. As if she already knew. That's how it looked to me.
どう？美味しかった？
Oishi. Was it tasty? Was it oishi? What an excellent play on the detective's name.
なんでそんなことを聞くんだよ。
Mion was speaking in an unusually low tone, almost as if she knew that I had eaten at the restaurant in town. No, I'm overthinking this. No, you're really not, bud. In fact, I think you're underthinking this. I think you need to think some more. I mean, both of them should have been in school at lunchtime. Yeah, because definitely, you know, we haven't figured out that all the villagers kind of know each other and keep in contact, and you know, that's the thing about these small towns. Everyone knows. The moment something happens, everyone knows. Believe me, I've lived in these small towns. I know all too well how this shit goes. Sure, you don't have to be there to know what happened. Because, oh, gossip spreads quickly in these rumor mills, let me tell you. There was no way that they could have known where I was. So you'd like to think.
渋いおじさまとご一緒だったみたいだけど。誰？
Because of course, the moment there's a stranger in the village, everyone's gonna clock it. Everyone's gonna clock it. There was an outsider. There was an outsider in the village. Outsider in the village. Yeah, I know. I couldn't help but notice there was this outsider in the village. And you know what else I noticed? That Maibara kid got into his car. Yeah, he was with that Maibara kid. Yeah, I know. The Maibara kid was with. And then this person tells that person, person tells another person, and it slowly spreads. Just like what we saw with Zombie Tag, right? You tell one kid, or at least a little number of kids, this potential rumor, right? Like, oh, there's something insane happening at this person's house. They need to know. Go tell them. It suddenly spreads to all of them, and they're combing throughout the village telling everyone, oh, we got to find this person because we need to tell them this. So all it takes is that one person, and I knew it. I knew it would make its way back to them. Knew it 110%. All it takes is that one person who sees it. That one person. And all of a sudden, the entire village knows. And of course, it would make perfect sense for Mion to know about it. And it would make perfect sense for Reina to know about it. Of course, Mion's going to know about it. Because I'm guessing her family is very prominent in the village. So, of course, especially if they're the ones behind this secret society that keeps taking out the outsiders that threaten the village, right? Of course, the moment there's an outsider that comes into the village, they're going to be like, they're going to alert the people at the top. And once the people at the top know, I'm sure Mion's going to learn pretty quickly. Because it seems Mion herself is very involved, from what I can tell. Mion herself is very involved in all of this. And then, of course, we bring Reina along. Because I'm sure that when they got to school, Reina told Mion everything about what she had overheard from our conversation. From the questions Keiichi was asking on the way home from school. The package with the mochi I was holding slipped out of my hands. I could tell the blood had drained from my face, making me go pale.
へえ、ケイチ君、ひょっとしてこの間の人かな？かな？
I feel the back of my throat going dry. This was no longer a bluff. they knew everything.
なんでそんなことわかるんだよ。
I took everything I had to finally force those words from my throat. My knees were shaking.
さてね、おじさんにわからないことはないからね。
Mion sneered knowingly, and her laugh seemed to carry on forever.
で、ケイちゃん、何のお話をしてたの？
He asked about the festival. He wanted to know something about the festival. He keeps pestering me about the festival. Quite the festival pestilence, if you ask me, but I just told him I didn't know nothing. He keeps asking me. I figured I could fleece a meal out of him, so of course I went to lunch with him. Like, I'm feeling a bit sick right now. Why not fleece a meal out of a man, eh? Treat myself, huh?
随分と熱くなってたみたいだけど。
I mean, yeah, I got worked up over it. Like, I don't want people knowing I'm associated with this outsider like that. I just thought I could fleece a free meal out of the guy. I was feeling a bit ill. He said he'd take me into the city to a restaurant. And I'm thinking, hey, I'll take him up on that offer. I'm feeling down today. Why not fleece a stranger, fleece an outsider of all people out of a meal, right? A free meal, come on. I didn't tell him nothing. And honestly, I really didn't tell him anything. I told him plenty the day before. But then again, she's not asking me what did I tell him. She asked me what did you talk about. Very specific wording. Because if she says like, oh yeah, what did you say to him? Well, then you can say, oh, I really didn't say much. He did all the talking. Which then again, obviously sets you up for the gotcha question of like, okay, well, what did he say? Then you're kind of fucked.
みんなの話はしてないよ。
Keiichi, you stupid fuck. At no point did they accuse you of talking about them. But now, you just done made a fucking, that's not the Freudian slip, is it? Is that the Freudian slip? I believe that's the Freudian slip. Where you go? I wasn't even talking about you guys. She's like, okay. We didn't ask if you were talking about us. Interesting.
ミオンともレナとも関係ない。
Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Let me come here. Let me come here. You're handling this totally wrong, bud. Don't worry. I was talking about you. Or Reina. I was talking about you guys at all. Hey. Is that what they asked you? Is that what they asked you, bud? They didn't ask if you were talking about them. They asked, what did you talk about? They're not asking, what didn't you talk about? They're asking, what did you talk about? So the moment you get defensive and say, oh, I wasn't talking about whatever, they go, oh, well, that's not the question we asked, but I see that's on the forefront of your mind right now. Because guess what? Now you're getting set up for the follow-up question. When you set up, even if you're, clearly you're acting very suspicious and they know you're bullshitting regardless, but even if you come up with something like this, I wasn't talking about you, I wasn't talking about either of you guys aren't involved. And they go, okay, we weren't part of the conversation, cool. What was the conversation?
聞いてもないのにレナたちの名前が出るなんてなんだか怪しいな。
Clock it, sister. I ain't even mad at her about that one. That's just Keiichi being a fucking dipshit. I was talking about you guys. At one point, did we ask if our names came up in the conversation? We didn't. We asked a very broad question of what did you talk about? Reina's unwavering gaze pierced through my eyes and peered further inside me. I dug my own grave. Yeah, you really did, dumbass. What the fuck was that? My heart was throbbing so much, felt like it was going to explode.
何を隠れてやろうとも、それだけを忘れないでくれればいいかな。
I couldn't even shake my head. Took everything I had to stop my teeth from chattering. She never let her gaze break from mine, even as she tilted her head slightly.
ケイチ君、顔色悪いよ。
Yeah, I should rest, shouldn't I?
もう横になった方がいい。
そうだね。私たちはもう帰ろう。
As if nothing had happened, they both giggled at each other and started making their way out. I hadn't moved a muscle since I had dropped the package of mochi. As they left, the door slowly closed behind them. All I could do was stare, as if I couldn't move until the door was completely closed. Just as the door was just about closed, opened again slightly with a sudden creak, setting my heart racing once again. Single eye peered through that narrow slit. Mion's hawkish gaze peered at me once again.
じゃあね、ケイちゃん。
あ、
明日、学校休んじゃ嫌だよ。
Thud. The door closed. Wasn't able to move a muscle even after their low laughter died off into the distance, and silence once again enveloped the room. Coming back to my senses, the first thing I did was lock the door. They knew what Oishi-san and I talked about. Why? How? No, that wasn't important. Thinking about it now, all of it could have been overheard. From the beginning when Oishi-san met me. Yeah, he pulled up in his car honking at you. You think that's not gonna draw some fucking attention? Come on now. Just as Mion said, I couldn't hide anything. Then, what were they trying to tell me? Oh, Keiichi, why are you so fucking slow? It's a very obvious threat to try to get you to shut the fuck up and get your nose out of their business. That part was obvious. They were warning me not to say anything unnecessary. What did they deem unnecessary? I only talked with Oishi-san about one thing. They were warning me that that was unnecessary. What was it that Oishi-san talked to me about? The incidents involving Oyashiro-sama's curse that occurred every year weren't individual cases, but were connected as a whole, as well as the fact that there may be multiple perpetrators hidden within Hinamizawa. No, more precisely, that Mion, Reina, Satoko, and Rika-chan were all suspicious. Is that what they were warning me against?
何バカなこと考えてんだよ、俺。
Yeah, no, you're over. What are you thinking about? Your homies were just checking in on you, making sure you're okay, telling you not to talk to strangers. I'm sure that's all it was. I hit my own face hard enough that I let it out a loud slap. If only that would wake me up from this nightmare. But for some reason, it felt like I was punching a blanket. It was almost laughably painless. Calm down, Keiichi, my brother. When did I become such a pessimist? Calm down. Calm down. Settle down and sort things out. The reason Mion knew I was eating lunch with Oishi-san was probably because somebody from Hinamizawa just happened to be there at that time. Correct. They must have told Mion that I was there. Correct. That made the most sense. It does. Plus, come to think of it, she didn't ask me where I ate lunch, did she? She only asked, was it good? They were just curious since I was together with someone not from Hinamizawa. It's not as if they had any ulterior motives. Keiichi? Keiichi, buddy. I'm really gonna need you to not delude yourself right now. That's not gonna do any good for you. To fucking be like, oh, there was no ulterior motives. That's it. That has to be it. Because clearly when you bullshitted them, they called you out and said, hey, you're bullshitting us. Think about it that way, it was the same with Reina. I was just being strangely ambiguous about when I met with Oishi-san, and Reina was just correcting me on that. Oh? Oh? That's when I was bewildered by the change in character from the usual mild-mannered Reina, and was just startled by it. That's the most natural way of thinking about it. It felt like my mind was mixed up like a tangled mess of spaghetti. Deep red marinara sauce would have poured out of my nose and ears if you squeezed my head. Is that foreshadowing? Thinking that, I suddenly felt like vomiting. I really didn't want that to happen, so I stopped holding my head. Lately, I had no idea what anyone was saying. Spending time with them was fun. Didn't feel like there was any sort of hidden agenda. I really do think that they're a good bunch of people. Until you learn the truth. Yes, I know how these true crime documentaries go, buddy. When I just moved here and couldn't make heads or tails of everything, they were really kind to me. Yeah, it's almost like they were sizing up the outsider or something. Reina was really kind and always looked after me. Yeah, it's almost like she's the plant to be the one to take you out if you were deemed a liability. As long as that strange affliction didn't rear its ugly head, she was really pretty cute. Mion is also a really good person. And she didn't care about anyone's age or gender and was optimistic and outgoing. Yeah, almost like some kind of leader, like someone in charge of something. I was never bored when I was with her. And talking of not getting bored, Rambunctious Satoko was a good person for that too. She was pretty bratty, but that was just the way she interacted with others. Riki-chan was the same way. She didn't speak often, but that didn't mean she was always silent. They're my friends. But after hearing of the better untold secrets of Hinamizawa from Oishi-san and Tomitaki-san, when I was told about Yashiro-sama's curse, things started going crazy. Yeah. Strange, right? It's almost as if Takano, someone who was clearly involved, heard Tomitake tell you about everything the night he was going to be silenced. So then, before she gets demoned away, she lets the fucking secret society know that, oh hey, before we took out Tomitake, unfortunately, he told the fucking kid, Maibara kid, everything. Well, not everything. Everything that he knew, anyway. He put him onto the curse. He made him aware of the murders that have been going on. He knows. So now, Mion's got to keep a close eye on him, doesn't she? Reina's got to keep a close eye on him, right? Because she's the plant. She's got to make sure he doesn't take it a step too far. Got to make sure he doesn't become a liability. Then, hearing from Oishi-san that Mion, Reina, Satoko, and Rika-chan were all suspicious. After that, everyone changed. That's right. It all started getting weird after Oishi-san told me all that strange stuff. Yeah, it's almost as if the secret society noticed you were getting into the car of an outsider's and spending a lot of time with them. It's like, oh, you had a very long conversation with a stranger in his car, and they very quickly noticed that you were trying to cover it up. They weren't calling you out right away, because they were just like, let's wait and see how it plays. But the moment Keiichi turns to Reina and goes, you're hiding something, aren't you? She turns around and goes, you're hiding something, aren't you? The moment he started to dig his nose into their business, the moment he wanted to dig a little deeper into the secrets, that's when things changed. It wasn't because that's the thing. After getting in the car with Oishi, there was no change. Things went about business as usual. They didn't act any different to you. You might have been a little weird, but they were totally fine around you. Everything was all good. All hunky-dory. It's the moment you wanted to start asking questions. It's the moment you wanted to dig into things. And be like, it's the moment you wanted to call them out. The moment you thought you had the upper hand, they turned it around on you. The moment you started asking questions, you became a target. You became a liability. You became something that needed to be... You became a loose end that needed to be tied up. Now they're trying not to tie you up the hard way. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tie up this loose end with threats. With threats and coercion and all that. That's how they're trying to tie up this loose end. But you keep unraveling. That's the problem. At that time, I really should have just not listened to those weird stories. Shouldn't even have asked Tomitaki-san about the past incidents on the night of the Watanagashi. Yeah, that is 100% what fucking, like, really fucked you, essentially. Because the moment that Tomitaki said, yeah, I'll fill you in. I'll let you know what's going on here. Why everyone's all kind of, I'll let you know what's going on. He pretty much just fucking signed your death warrant for you. Because now you're curious. You want to know things. And then Oishi comes around and says, hey, I know some things. And now you're even more curious. Now you want to know more things. If I just hadn't gotten that strange sense of curiosity, yep. If I just hadn't... That's right. So that's why they killed Tomitaki-san. Why did they censor it? Why did they censor killed? because obviously if they censor it, it makes me think of, like, something worse. Like, I know they didn't gang rape him, so, like, but it really looks like, so that's why they fucked Tomitaki-san. Which, I mean, they definitely fucked him over, that's for sure, but... That impudent outsider speaking to the likes of me after everybody went out of their way to keep it a secret from me. Yep. They'll probably kill Oishi-san as well. Why are you censoring that? For trying to unearth what everybody was warning me was better left buried. Besides that, he was unforgivable for spewing words that made me doubt the others. Of course, a guy like that is going to be killed. Both Tomitaki-san and Oishi were nothing but outsiders after all. They were entities who couldn't coexist with the people of Hinamizawa. Those guys should just fall to Yashiro-sama's curse and just die. It wasn't their fault. It was my fault for not being able to hold back my curiosity. Here's the thing. I don't think Oishi's going to die. Now, maybe they're going to prove me wrong. I still think you're in denial that you're the next target. Oishi-san told you as much. Because here's the thing. Oishi doesn't really visit Hinamizawa, right? He went in there he's investigated the crime scenes, right? And the only times we've seen him actually in Hinamizawa is strictly to talk to Keiichi and then leave. Because he recognizes that Keiichi is potentially the next victim because of his true outsider status. I don't think Keiichi's quite caught on that it isn't Oishi who's on the chopping block. They're mad at Oishi because he's trying to save the next person on the chopping block. He's trying to make them aware and get them out of there. Or at least prepare him so that when shit hits the fan, he's not fucked off the bat. It wasn't their fault. 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 I settled into a daze. There was a lethargic feeling like I had just gotten up, but the ominous chill that haunted me had subsided. I was fine now. I was no longer frightened. I had completely recovered. I'll go to school tomorrow, right as rain. I'll greet everyone. I'll take part in club activities. It'll definitely be fun. It had to be fun. I was one of them, after all.
あ、そうだ。おはぎ食べないと、どれがレナの手作りか当てないといけないんだよな。
I remember the homework the two brought with them when they visited me. But wow, our club did delivery. That was something else. I picked up the package I dropped on the floor and headed into the living room. It'd be nice, I guess, to have some tea with it. It isn't mochi, is it? To fill my mouth with mochi while drinking tea. Oh, this is quite a delectable situation I was in. Opening up the newspaper wrapping, there were 5 plump red bean paste mochi fit snugly inside. One of them's not red bean paste. There were letters written on... There were letters written from left to right on the newspaper. A, B, C, D, and E. Now then, they said Reina made one of these. I wonder which one. There wasn't much difference in how they looked. They smelled and appeared about the same. This was a pretty difficult problem. The biggest difference was probably their shape. I wasn't sure what kind of person Mion's grandma was, but Reina's had to be different from hers. Looking carefully, I could see one mochi that was made very neatly. So well, that, just by staring at it, one could tell it stood out.
この一個がレナのか否かが勝負の分かれ目みたいだな。
Calm down and think even harder. Mion had said her grandma made a ton of them and was told to give some out, if I remember correctly. So that meant 4 of these were from that large batch. And what about Reina? She probably only made 1. So she probably spent quite a bit of time on it. Meaning the one that Reina had made was this one, E. For a moment, I thought it may have been a trap Mion laid as she knew I'd pick up on it. But that probably wasn't the case. Wouldn't be so sure if I knew Mion had made it, but since she said Reina made it, it probably wasn't a trap. No, that probably means it's definitely a trap. That means you open that thing first before you bite into it.
よし、お茶も準備 OK。まずはディフェンディングチャンピオンのミオンのばあちゃんからだ。どれ？
Not bad. The smooth bean paste and soft chewy texture left little to be desired. The tea I drank afterwards also accentuated the experience. This was an exquisite piece of work. Now, how about Reina's? The creation was so delicate, one would think it was a high-class Japanese dessert. Since I normally had quite the appetite, I was slightly worried about the size of the portion. But, well, first, a bite. This was quite a difficult one to judge, actually. The ingredients were exactly the same, so there was little difference in flavor. What was different was how it was shaped at the end, so it was to be expected. So the deciding factors would be presentation and volume. The well-formed and well-sized champion versus Reina the challenger with a size you just couldn't get enough of. I'd only had one bite of Reina's. I'd probably have to wait until after I was done eating to make my decision. Maybe there was something hidden inside that could cause an upset. Yup. Seems my prediction was right. My tongue touched something. Didn't feel like something edible, so I reached in with my fingers and grabbed it. What? What was this? Before I could fully comprehend what it was, I threw away the rest of the mochi I was eating as fast as I could. It slammed against the wall, causing the bean jam to splatter. After sticking for a moment, it slid down to the floor. I was dumbstruck by my own actions. What was I doing? Reina had gone out of her way to make it for me. How could I? Dumbstruck, I looked down at the hand that performed such a vile act. Then I remembered what I had taken out of my mouth. First I thought it was a hair. Even though it was shorter than Mion's, Reina's hair was still quite long. And it wasn't this short. It was also a bit too hard to be hair. It was thick enough to roll around on my tongue. Something short that seems hair-like, but it's thick. There's a bit of a metallic sheen on one end of it. Ah, yes, there was a hole for where the thread goes through, like it was a sewing needle. Yes, that's right. It looked very much like a sewing needle. Exactly like one. The end was pointed as well, quite sharply. It really did look just like a sewing needle. Huh? What did I mean by looked very much like a sewing needle just a bit ago? I couldn't answer. But a voice inside me already knew. Let me know by chattering my molars together. I couldn't stave off the terror welling up inside me. Suddenly, I tasted something metallic and felt a prickling pain at the back of my throat. I stuck my finger in the back of my mouth to feel around and see if I was bleeding. Suddenly, I felt the urge to vomit. The sharp taste of bile irritated the back of my throat. I clasped both hands over my mouth, and after writhing in agony, somehow able to hold back the nausea. I was finally able to breathe normally again. This time my heart was throbbing intensely. Then it finally registered. Exactly what was mixed in with the mochi. Before I could think of the correct word, my hands were already on the move. I tossed the rest of the mochi against the wall. The geometrical patterns of the scattered bead jam on the wall suddenly invoked a terrible omen in my mind. After looking away, I dashed out to the hall and flew upstairs to my room, where I stayed under my covers until morning. I clutched my own shoulders, howling madly in a mix of fear, anger, sadness, and frustration. This wasn't a threat, or warning, or reminder. Nothing as simple as that. What had happened in Hinamizawa? What is happening in Hinamizawa? What would happen? I didn't know the answer to any of those questions. Where did I break a taboo? Okay, come on, bud. That's kind of an obvious one. Let's be real here. Regardless, now Reina and Mion and others, they consider me an enemy. And they thought I should just die. I won't let you kill me. Not for such a pointless reason. I fell into a restless sleep as I was crushed by my negative emotions. It was as if I was being drawn into a billowing, bottomless swamp. Yeah, and his parents are going to come home and be like, "Hey, Keiichi, what the fuck? Why is there jam all over the fucking walls? What did you do?" A drug that makes you kill yourself and threat. Those are quite the tips. Fucking Keiji. Ah yes, they were just leaving me some mochi.
Tanto 直入に
直接的には。
遠回しですね。では間接的にはあるってことですか？
自殺したくなる精神状態を誘発することは。
難しい言い方になりましたね。何ですかその自殺したくなる精神状態ってのは。
例えば一般的な心理学見地から言えばじゃが、心理面が内向状態から外向状態に転じるときに最も自殺が多いと言われちょる。
Clinical depression and bipolar disorder are different. Clinical depression indicates a prolonged state of depression, whereas bipolar disorder is characterized by a passive depressed state accompanied by a very active manic state.
内向状態の時は自信を喪失し非常に悲観的だ。だが自殺もせん。
I see what happened. No, I see what happened. Maybe. I'm thinking I see what happened. They didn't inject him with hallucinogenics. They injected him with some kind of, I don't know what the proper term is for it, but some kind of downer, all right? You know, a lot of drugs are classified into uppers and downers, right? I forget the actual, like, proper terms, but it's like, you know, alcohol is a downer, but, like, I think, what, meth and cocaine are, like, uppers and whatnot, I believe. Maybe not meth. Meth's a tough one. But I believe, like, cocaine and I think amphetamines are classified under, like, uppers. I forget the actual proper term for them. But they inject him with some kind of downer, or at the very least they get him, like, drunk, maybe? Because alcohol is considered, one of these downer substances. So maybe they get him drinking, they give him some kind of drug that puts him into a depressive state, but then, he starts getting attacked, which throws him into this very alert, very heightened state. I don't know if that would quite classify as mania, but it's this very, rapid mood shift that, if we're following along what he's saying here, could cause something.
自殺をする気力すらないからだ。逆の状態もまた自殺をす。今度は逆に非常に自信過剰で行動的なので、自らを順風満帆と思う。
Okay, so maybe it's the opposite.
自殺などせんのだ。
Maybe the depressive state was caused by being attacked. I don't know, but they inject him with some kind of drug that simulates one of these states, either a depressive or a manic state, right? And then the actual assault on him causes a sudden mood shift that could put him in this suicidal state. And maybe that paired with whatever some of the side effects of the drug are led to him, doing what he did.
なるほどね。どっちの状態でも自殺をしないのに、状態が入れ替わるときに自殺するんですか？
内向状態には自殺願望はあるが、自殺という大仕事を遂げる気力すらもない。だが、外向状態が始まると、徐々に気力が充実し、体の自由が利くようになってくる。
なるほど。つまり自殺する。
そういうことじゃの。だからこの時期に変な気を起こさんように処方箋を施すわけじゃな。
では、富武氏は
一般的に自殺はちゃんとした文化的な手法で行われる。
Right.
道具を使用してな。
The conventional methods.
自虐行動とは全く違うぞい。
富武氏の自殺は、ではやっぱり何かの中毒と考えるのが自然ですか。
鎮痛薬の一部には心理を内向から外向に過剰転換させる効果があると。
Stimulant. There we go. That's the fucking word. Stimulant. Because even something as simple as like caffeine in your coffee is, considered caffeine is a drug, and it's a stimulant, or, the term is, another term is uppers. Stimulants and, my brain wants to say narcotics, but I don't think that's quite the right term, but maybe it is. You know what? Let me look it up real quick. I'm sure if I type in like stimulants and it'll give me the autocorrect that stimulants oh, it's just called depressants. Oh my god, I'm fucking stupid. They induce a depressive state. They're called depressants. Holy fuck. Yeah, stimulants and depressants, or more commonly referred to as uppers and downers. Yes. Those are like the two major classifications of drugs. Stimulants and depressants. And see that's why I was saying that meth is like one I was very unsure of. Because like in the area I live, meth is unfortunately quite prominent. But that's the thing, like, I know about it. I know what it does to people. Fuck, I've had coworkers who are, former meth addicts. So they've told me about their experiences while on meth. And that's why I was very unsure as to where it would fall, because it feels like they experience both depressive and manic states. So that one resembling bipolar, and that's also another thing I brought up when they first talked about, how Tomitake-san died, was the fact that I knew people that did meth dealt with like the sensation of like bugs under their skin, which leads to them like picking at themselves. So they often have like sores on like their hands and arms or their neck and face. Like, yeah, I knew people who have, picked at their neck and developed sores along their neck due to meth usage. So like, that's one where it's like, I kind of feel like meth isn't like, it makes sense.
それから催眠作用を持つ薬を異常摂取した場合にも異常行動が報告されとるが、あまり一般的ではないの。
That's what killed Marilyn Monroe. That's the only thing I recognize the term barbiturates for. That's a sleep aid, barbiturates. Wait, is that like the shit that's in NyQuil?
その2つは検視の報告だと違うみたいですね。他の可能性は?
Right. Meth is one I don't think that leaves the system very quickly.
あとは病気しか考えられん。甲状腺異常を引き起こす病気にしばしばそれに似た症状が報告されとる。だが、それらは概して特徴的な症状が多い。
Is there a drug that could simulate the effects of Graves' disease?
仏は違うの。
もっと突発的に発生するものはありませんかね。今回のケースと合うような突発性で自殺したくなるようなやつです。
他には、そうじゃな。脳障害によって精神に異常を発生する状態じゃな。これは薬物中毒でも起こるが、脳の外傷や一部の病気なんかでも起こる。
Encephalitis. I'm not familiar with that term. Encephalitis. Dangerous brain inflammation typically caused by viral infections or immune system malfunction. High fever, severe headaches, confusion, seizures, stiff neck. Okay, so that one's more of a sickness. Oh no, it's saying encephalitis along with physical trauma is a potential cause of the organic mental illness. Okay. Because it causes...
つまり薬によらなくても異常な精神状態に陥る可能性があると。
Are there drugs in the water? Is there something in the water? Are they purposefully infecting the population? And that's why both Mion and Reina have these instances where they like their personalities just like snap and change, right? Their eyes fucking suddenly shift. And suddenly they feel like completely different people.
仏は犯人に囲まれて命に危険が迫っとったんじゃろ。
Right.
極度の緊張が続いて、それに分泌異常が重なって、さらに打ちどころが悪くて脳に障害が起こり、自虐行動に走った。
Because they
可能
said,
性もあるかもしれんの。
are you done? Thank you. Because they said that Tomitagi spends like what, a week in Hinamizawa every year around the time of the festival, right? Now, obviously, just 1 week out of the year probably wouldn't be enough to like completely alter his brain chemistry, right? But maybe it's just enough to where, like, oh, on that last week, Takano, the person who has access to medicinals, starts upping the dosage to where he wouldn't quite notice. Starts giving him a bit more, to where his case becomes much more severe than the average citizen of Hinamizawa, right?
もうちょっとしょ。
つまり乱闘中に豆腐の角に頭ぶつけて、それで異常が発生したと言っとるんだ。
Which is a very real possibility.
じゃあ星には殺意はなかったってことです。ちょいと小銭を巻き上げようと思ったら、たまたま殴りどころが悪かったと。
But if one of them happened to be a nurse who was well versed in medical sciences and happened to know roughly the right area to aim for to cause such a reaction, the two plump men laughed hoarsely.
なんてわけはありません。
いかに薬物の常用にせよ、精神的なものにせよ、仏の身元が鍵を握って。
あら、こんな時間、そろそろ戻らない。
おお、頑張れよ。いいお年。
いいお年を。
Yeah, and they're talking about like his background, and we know from his dog tags that he's a soldier, right? And that's the thing. I do know because I think in the previous recording session, I did go looking at his sprites in the other sprite sets just to make sure like the dog tags were there in all the sprite sets. Like that was actually a key part of his design. It's not just something someone slapped on there for no reason. And obviously, in looking at his sprites, I can be honest, I saw him in a military uniform. I do know that is one of his sprites. I didn't read anything beyond that, but I did see the sprites. So, like, he is genuinely a soldier. Now, he seemed young, so he definitely wasn't, like, a World War II soldier, because this takes place in the 80s. Which means, like, to have served in World War II and then still be alive in the 80s, he would have to be, even if he served as, like, a teenager, he'd have to be, like, in his late 50s. So, let's say, I guess I don't know entirely what was going on with Japan post-World War II. I don't, like, know what other wars they might have taken part in, if anything. Was he even Japanese? Maybe that's the question. Because clearly he has a false identity. Is he even Japanese? We know he has dog tags. Like, we don't know. We don't know. But that's the, like... Because I know, like, America was involved in the Vietnam War in the 60s. Like, was it late 60s, early 70s, something like that? Which, you know, if he was like a teenager in the 60s, in the 80s, he'd be like in his late 30s. Right? In, you know, early 80s, which kind of aligns with what it was. I just don't know if... I mean, you'd think Vietnam, that's a lot closer to Japan. Maybe they were involved, but also only 20 years after World War II ended, especially with how it ended for the Japanese. Like, I doubt they were too, ready to jump into another war, but maybe I'm mistaken. You know what? I have Google open. I can just fucking Google Vietnam War. I can just Google and see what all was what was Japan dragged in at all? And it seems like no. There was North Vietnam, Soviet Union, North Korea, China. But also on the other side, we see South Vietnam, the US, obviously, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, the Philippines, Taiwan. No mention of Japan, which makes sense because, like I said, 20 years after the events of World War II, especially with how it ended for the Japanese, really wouldn't make sense that they would be jumping into war like that. So now I'm curious. Japanese Self-Defense Forces? That's apparently the name of what major things excuse me, missions and deployments. No. Yeah, I'm not quite sure, and Google's not really giving me anything definitive. I don't know exactly what to really look for, see like what major wars they were involved in, if anything. But the only excuse me, the only one I know of around that time that would make sense for Tomitake's age range would be the Vietnam War, but as far as I can tell, Japan was not involved in that, so I'm not quite sure. Anyway, threat. Is this regarding Keiichi's shit, or is this... Is this after Oishi comes back from, or is this when he gets, the captain telling him, Oishi, get off this case? The diet? God damn. Oh, the Sonozakis are deep into the government. Gotcha. There's one sitting on the actual city council, and then one who's actually up in the big building, huh? Yeah, what a fucking coincidence. It's almost like they're fucking in their positions they are to try to cover up anything that's going on in Hinamizawa. Also, you think politicians give a fuck about the rules? There was a prefectural assembly member, Sonozaki, and city councilor, Sonozaki. Also, the mayor of Hinamizawa. See, I was kind of figuring that Sonozaki was in charge of the entire fucking village. I was just waiting for them to actually point it out. Yeah, okay. The mayor of Hinamizawa. So there are 3 Sonozakis, one in charge of the village, one in charge of a counselor in the city, and one who's actually a fucking part of the prefectural assembly. Like, they got 3 different levels of Sonozakis fucking keeping shit covered up. If that doesn't just spell it out for you, Jesus Christ. Like, fuck, man. Like, obviously I've made a lot of connections between this story and what happens with the village in the Shell Part 2. But, like, fuck, even there, like, the big family ran, like, a big company in Tokyo, so they like, had money, and they're, like, throwing their money around, but they weren't, like, you know, the Hinagamis weren't, like, in various levels of the government. It was just that one major family, and, like, the one guy, running the fucking company while also doing some shit in the village. Like, this is like levels on levels. This shit goes deep. So they're all influenced by the Sonozaki family. What crap. Oh, you mean Deputy Chief Sonozaki and Department Chief Sonozaki? Like, I'm figuring, like, everyone's a goddamn Sonozaki at this point. If you don't tell me your last name off rip, you're a Sonozaki. I don't trust you. He came to me. That night, when the department chief invited me along to get some oden, thought that was it. Heard something. What are you talking about? The counselors. Stormed in on the police chief. Said, hey, somebody's digging into our business, see? Prefectural Assembly member Sonozaki and City Councilor Sonozaki were both intimidating. Our snot-nosed career police chief couldn't handle being yelled at by them. They're like Yakuza. Takaski. Do I know that name? That sounds familiar. There was a period of silence. While we were silent, we made headway on our food and drink. Yeah, I'm going by train. The department chief is taking a taxi. I have my own car, but it'd be rash to drive it home. Can't blow it right before retirement with a DUI. Even though he could still rattle off, it looked like his legs were already jelly. Pushing him into the cab, I gave the driver the department chief's address. A public servant's severance payment is calculated based on their monthly salary when they retire. So a special promotion of 2 pay grades is given before retirement. This tops up the employee's severance payment, and it tends to be how it's done around here. Of course, it's not exactly a commendable custom. Incidentally, the difference that 2 pay grades makes to the payout is quite significant. What a way of saying, hey, I don't care. I'ma do my thing. It certainly wasn't a laughing matter, but I'll laugh through it anyway.
大石さんはそれだけの退職金をもらってもおかしくない活躍をしてきたからさ。僕としてはぜひもらってほしいんだよ。
もらえるもんならそりゃ欲しいですけどね。
もらえるよ。大石さんが大人なら。
運転手さん、引き止めてすみませんね。お願いします。
I closed the door roughly, interrupting the department's chief's conversation a bit rudely. Looked like he still had something to say, but he just smiled wryly and waved. And I waved in return. The cab sped up gradually and soon disappeared among the sea of lights.
参ったな。ローン返済できるかな。
Okay, so that was about a threat towards Oishi. Gotcha. So, Keiichi, I'm very worried for you as to what your next day is gonna hold. Because they, quite clearly tried to kill you already. They're quite clearly trying to set you up to have an accident. And this is just the first day, bud. This is just the first day. You got pretty much a whole year until the next festival. Tap, tap, tap. Sound of muffled footsteps stopped in front of the door to my room. Moment of silence, as if whomever they belonged to was ascertaining if I was inside. Of all the things I should have been doing, I continued on with my restless slumber. I was very much conscious, but my body hadn't caught up yet. Even with danger bearing down on me from just beyond the door, it was as if I was completely paralyzed, unable to move. Without a doubt, this was sheer terror. Please, just leave. Hey, why isn't my body awake yet? If they came into my room right now, then... I sprang to my feet and threw my covers at my mom, who was opening the door.
何ケイチ、どうしたの？
寝ぼけてた。
I thought it was still 1 or 2 a.m., but the morning sun was already streaming through the gap between the curtains. Felt nothing like morning. Yesterday, must have fallen asleep right after that. Then I should have gotten a full 10 hours of rest. But it didn't feel like that at all. My internal clock was completely screwed up and my sense of balance fell off. I felt feverish enough that it was clear to me that I was still not well.
どうケイチ、体の調子は学校行けそう？
I felt far from well enough. No, I wasn't mentally fit to go. I was still plagued with the terror from yesterday. If I had swallowed that needle, then what would have happened? Or what if it had pierced my tongue? It was undoubtedly a murderous intent, but I don't think that's all it was. If they really wanted to kill me, then there were other, more certain ways to do it. They wouldn't resort to such a dubious method as having me swallow a needle. Yeah, no, they did expect you to find the needle. Meaning I didn't want to believe it, but going that far was just a threat from Reina and Mion. Aren't you glad you didn't die? But next time, we'll use a more assured method. Like that. Something like sending a letter with a razor inside would have been a joke compared to this.
ちゃんと病院は行った？お薬は飲んだの？
Mom, I gotta ask, how come you're not pissed off at all about the jelly splatter on the wall? Because I really don't think in his fit of terror that Keiichi scrubbed the wall of jelly.
まあ一応。
Something about my mom's dubious gaze bothered me. She seemed more concerned about her son missing 2 days of school rather than him being sick. It was definitely mental fatigue. I wasn't really physically ill.
一度生活のリズムを崩すとさら起きて起きて。病は気からって言うのよ。
Yeah, my state of mind is the problem. I had heard that line many times before. I was given an award in elementary school for having perfect attendance, but it wasn't like I was healthier than everyone.
ささ、顔洗ってらっしゃい。ご飯はもうできてるわよ。もうレナちゃんが来るまであまり時間がないわよ。
Hey, Mom, don't word that like that. There isn't much time before Reina comes and gets you. Whoa. That's gonna make my heartbeat start going like, oh fuck, no. Mom's tone meant I couldn't argue about it, so I had to give up on skipping a second day.
そうそう。今の壁にボタ餅を投げつけたのはケイチ？
There it is. Okay.
ダメよ、あんなことしちゃ。
I love how she's not gonna ask why. She's like, hey, don't do that. Like, oh, thanks, Mom. Okay, sorry. I didn't realize I shouldn't have done that. My bad.
お父さん、怒ってたわよ。
I didn't feel particularly guilty for doing it, so I didn't have much of a reaction. Also, Mom didn't question me any further about it, which is kind of weird. Because, hey, what child in their right mind just fucking throws the fucking bean paste at the wall? If my teenage child had thrown bean paste at the wall, I wouldn't just go, hey, that's a no-no, don't do that. I would have questioned, hey kid, why would you do that? There's got to be a reason you did that. If they were like 3 years old, 4 years old, and there was bean paste on the wall, I'd be like, okay, toddler throwing a tantrum. Hey kid, no, don't throw jelly at the wall. Bad, or bean paste, whatever the fuck. Don't throw the shit at the wall. And you just go, oh, no, like his mom just did. Your teenage child, though, ask a question. Ask a question. Don't just say naughty, no. Ask a question. Get a fucking answer as to why he did that. Because there's gotta be a reason. Maybe she's scared to ask a question because she doesn't want her kid to miss any more school, right? Because she asks a question, then it's like, oh, we find out he's even worse well off. Well, it's like, well, then we can't send him to school. Like, no. Ask a question. Ask him a damn question. Hey, kid. You don't even have to get accusatory about it. You don't have to get angry about it. Just, like, okay. We saw the paste on the wall. What's up with that? Like, hey, your pops is very angry about that. I just want to know why you did that. Just want to know why. Like, what compelled you to do that? Because that's not just an activity teenagers do for the fuck of it. They don't just throw food at the walls and go, I got bean paste on the wall. Like, ma'am, you are failing at parenting. Lock the fuck in and ask your kid a damn question. Talk to your child, for fuck's sake. She headed back downstairs after she was certain I was getting up. Bro, your mom don't care about you. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Your mom don't care about you. She's like, hey, that thing you did, don't do that. Anyway, I'm gone. Like, what Mion said as she left yesterday, I'd hate it if you missed school tomorrow, came back and dwelled in the back of my head. Yeah, that's the biggest reason, right? I was half expecting his mom to be like, oh, you definitely look rough. You should definitely stay another day. And for him to be like, no, Mom, I really shouldn't. You know what? I should really get back to school. It would suck if I missed 2 days in a row. That'd be a really rough time. I really shouldn't. I was expecting him to be like defensive because of Mion's veiled threat there. What did she mean by that? Oh my fucking god. Keiichi? I didn't have to really think about that. I hate it when Keiichi does this. I hate it when the narration does this. When he asks a question and then is immediately like, well, that's a stupid question. Why would I ask that? The answer's obvious. Like, then skip asking the fucking question if you already know the goddamn answer. She was saying, don't be absent. Duh. Taking that a bit further, it was the same as her saying, I should just go about living my life as if nothing had happened. Duh. If I showed any signs of acting unusual, it would probably result in them making their move. Duh. If I acted differently, someone like Oishi-san, for example, might end up noticing that something is up. Duh. Meaning, if I didn't watch my mouth or do anything differently from the norm, in effect, it would end up communicating something to those who were undesirable. And it seems that was something that the girls didn't intend to forgive. So, if I just went along as normal, no harm would come to me. Was that how it was going to be? All that misery I experienced up until yesterday would almost creepily just fade away. It was an enticing deal. Just by forgetting everything I'd seen or heard these last few days, I'd be able to keep living on like normal. I swallowed hard. I once again deliberated on the idea that I had just rejected. Mion was probably a good person who had her friends at heart. She was giving me, who had mistakenly broken some rule of theirs, a chance. Was what I did really something so unforgivable? But Mion had given me another chance. She was saying if I just forgot everything and kept living on like I had been, I'd be forgiven.
ケイチ、ご飯冷めちゃうわよ。急いで降りてらっしゃい。早くしないとレナちゃんが来ちゃうわよ。
今行くよ。
I crammed my textbooks into my bag and hastily made my way downstairs. Pops. I picked up my somewhat bland breakfast. Pops, where are you? I need you to ask your kid why. Seems I didn't have much time. Sorry, past when I usually met up with Reina. Given yesterday's events, she'd probably be here in the next 5 minutes. Need to be ready to head to school by then. I'd have forget everything that happened the past 2 days. Forget it all and return to my normal life. For this to be normal, I'll have to be where I normally meet up with Reina. Today of all days, the rice was dry, hard to get down. I jumped at the sound and dropped my chopsticks. That chime signaled that Reina had arrived. Mom hurried me along.
ほら、レナちゃん来ちゃったわ。急いで急いで。
My mother's merry smile and my gloomy face were polar opposites. Honestly, I was reluctant to see Reina, who was waiting there on the other side of the door. The Reina on the other side. Was it the Reina that I knew? I couldn't keep her waiting. I needed to do things as usual. An invigorating greeting filtered in from across the doorway.
ケイチ君、遅かったから来てみたけど、今日はどうかな？かな？
The manner in which Reina was concerned was, without a doubt, the Reina I knew. But that was probably only if I reciprocated. Forget everything from yesterday. Pretend as though nothing had happened. Forget about the gruesome dismemberment. Forget about the mysterious deaths that happened the following years. Forget about the people falling to their death, and the terminal illness and suicide, the fatal beatings and the disappearances. Forget it. Forget all of it. Forget that Reina and Mion were scary, of course. Forget it all. Forget about all of it. Forget about the mochi, too. Forget, forget, forget. Reina, once again asked to make sure.
学校行けそう？
大丈夫だよ。
よかった。じゃあ行こう。みーちゃん待ってるよ。
Oh, I'm sure she is. I'm sure she is. If Reina walked back to Mion and said, he's not coming, then they both were gonna do something. Reina showed me her usual bright smile. Couldn't find any hint of deceit in her expression. My nervousness dissipated, giving way to relief. Stupid.
なのにさとこちゃんね、絶対にできるって意地になっちゃって。
As we were walking, Reina talked about a lot of different stuff, more so than usual.
それで？
さとこちゃん不吉祥だから何度やってもできないの。はかいかったんだよ。
Everything Reina talked about was just silly nonsense, so I just replied every so often and laughed from time to time. It was a rather laid-back conversation. Until she, walks in and is like, you're not paying attention, Kei-chan. We passed by one of our neighbors and they called out to us.
あれ？ケイチちゃんにレナちゃん、ミオンちゃん、先に行くって言ってたわよ。
みーちゃん怒ってるかな？怒ってるかな？早く行こう、ケイチ君。
After greeting our neighbor with a smile, Reina turned back to me and poked her tongue out. Not expecting that, I couldn't help but crack a smile.
なんだよ。
Reina stopped and stared at me. Oh, not the
ケイ
stare.
チ君、今朝もなんか元気なかったから、まだ風邪が治らないのかなって思ってたけど、大丈夫みたいだね。
With a grin, she gently poked my cheek. It was a bright, sincere smile. Hey, Keiichi Maibara. How can you still doubt Reina after she shows you a smile like that? Oh, I don't fucking know, bud. How could I? How could I possibly? I fucking wonder. How could I possibly doubt her? She definitely didn't come into my home and threaten me. She definitely didn't creep into my house and eavesdrop on my conversations. Oh, but she showed you a nice smile. You know what? I already said it. This is going to be one of those times where he asks a stupid fucking question and then goes, well, I know exactly how I could doubt it. But goddamn, I hate it when he asks these. Maybe I just had a high fever up until today, and I imagined everything that I thought happened because I was bedridden and delirious. And I really hope that was the case. If God would grant me just one wish, there's only one thing I'd wish for. I would want what happened in the past few days. More specifically, from the night of the Watanagashi up until last night. I wanted all of that to have never happened. Wonder how many times I'd wished for this these past few days. As long as Reina kept on smiling like this, I think it might just become reality. So I wanted Reina to keep on smiling. Keep on smiling.
で、ケイチ君、
Uh-oh, here it comes.
昨日のおはぎ、ちゃんと食べてくれた？
That vain wish of mine was instantly shattered. My heart began palpitating. The relaxed morning mood suddenly became frigid. Reina's smile was the same as usual. Her eyes were gentle as usual. Those mochi yesterday, did you eat them all? Of course, she wasn't asking the question at face value. In other words, Reina was asking, did you get the message? She was probably trying to convey that.
ケイチ君？
I was reluctant to give an answer. Reina stopped walking and stared deeply into my eyes. Don't hesitate, Keiichi Maibara. Reina was acting the same as always, wasn't she? I needed to respond in my usual way. Naturally, of course. But both my throat and mouth had gone dry, and my lips were stuck together. Hurry and answer, Keiichi. Not that much time had passed. I could still keep the conversation going naturally. I had to say something quickly. Reina playfully mimicked what I said when I finally squeaked something out. Reina's reaction was still normal. It seemed that there wasn't as long of a pause as I had thought. Somehow I finally squeaked out the rest. However, my strained efforts neither sullied nor brightened Reina's expression. For a moment I panicked, thinking I had replied incorrectly. But after a few moments, Reina broke into her usual soft smile and giggled with a joyful voice that seemed to echo through the morning air. Being strung along by that laugh, I couldn't help but laugh as well.
そうなんだ。で、全部食べたのかな？かな？
That is the question she asked. That's Keiichi's probably biggest fucking issue is they ask a question, he's like, how do I get around it? But these people aren't fucking stupid, and they go, okay, that's great. Now answer the question I asked you. Because, hey, let's look back in the log. Hey, let's look back. What did she ask specifically? Let's see that. Did you eat them all? That was the question. And he responds with, delicious. They're delicious. So of course she asks again, that's nice. Did you eat them all? My timid smile froze again. Did you make it without swallowing the sewing needle? Was that what she was asking? If I had swallowed it, then I wouldn't be here.
いや、全部は食べきれなかったからさ、まだ残ってるんだよ。
I was scared out of my wits, but that's how I played it.
あれれ、どれがレナが作ったのか当てる宿題。
あの宿題って今日までだった。
うん、今日までなんだよ。みーちゃん怒るよ。きっと罰ゲームだね。
Oh, yeah. I'm sure she has some great penalties lined up for me, I'm sure. We both laughed at each other again. To a casual observer, it was just a typical morning. If I could just let myself believe, then I'd even think it was just the usual morning routine. But I was certain I wasn't mistaken. There was something unimaginable buried beneath the facade of this giggling Reina. I recalled that unexpected piercing voice that I could hardly believe came from Reina's mouth. The moment that image crossed my mind, I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back. Was it only at that particular time that something evil had possessed Reina? Or has she always been capable of this? And you just fucking happened to unleash the beast? No, that was wrong. That was still Reina. Oishi-san told me, didn't he?
実は調べてみたら、竜宮さんは引っ越しの少し前になんでも学校中のガラスを割って回ったんだとか。
Reina had a disorder that normal people didn't. No matter how pleasantly she smiled, that fact would not change. But I couldn't even imagine how she looked as she broke all the glass throughout the school. One thing I knew was that it wasn't something spur of the moment. If it was some sudden outburst of anger, then maybe she'd break a pane or two. But she broke all the windows, all throughout her school. Just imagine going through your own school, breaking the windows with a bat. Damn. Swinging full force at each pane of glass, one after another, paying no heed to the flying shards. Your classmates aghast, unable to move from the sudden turn of events. Wonder where she could have found the most windows lined up in a row. Probably the hallway. It was difficult for me to connect that horrifying image with the Reina smiling at me right now. But I just had to imagine it. Impossible because it was unimaginable. A naive way of thinking no longer worked. The unpleasant piercing sound of shattered glass, the crunching noise as Reina treads across the broken shards, walking towards me. Reina's classmates going pale as they forget to even breathe. I wonder what they did as Reina came closer, breaking windows along her path. Did they earnestly try to bring her to her senses by saying something? Or did they jump at her, trying to stop her savagery? Or did they run to the staff room to call for the teachers? Probably none of those. In the face of that blood-curdling sight, of Reina busting window after window, undoubtedly all they could do was silently clear a path for her. Dumbfounded, just clearing the path for Reina to continue. It would be cruel to blame anyone for looking the other way. No, they weren't simply looking the other way. They knew it was the only way they could protect themselves. If they had done something differently from the rest, they may have suddenly found themselves as Reina's new target. What would Reina have done to whoever attracted her attention? The answer was obvious. She would have undoubtedly acted according to her whims. Meaning they would, I would, be the next window. Reina, staring into my eyes, shards of glass crunching and crackling underfoot as she drew closer. I was also drawn into her eyes, paralyzed. Then Reina struck me with the bat, over and over again, like I was one of those windows. I crouched down onto the floor, desperately protecting my head. Reina didn't care whether it was my head or my back. Zealously, she hit me again and again. What kind of expression was she making as she was doing this over and over again? I peered up to see. Big ol' smile. No? Her expression was so indifferent, it was completely unnerving. It's because no matter how many times she struck me, it didn't make as pleasant a sound as the other windows. She struck me continuously, over and over again. That sound Reina wanted didn't come out. Our classmates standing around didn't try to stop her. They didn't want to be the next window. Somebody save me. Turning a blind eye unless we're hanging out. But of course, everyone in class scrambled to obtain the highest standardized test scores. They'd gain nothing from saving a cram school tryhard like me. Eventually there would be a faint sound, similar to when you crack open a walnut. Some sort of reddish-black spray would shoot out. Anyway, it wasn't that Reina momentarily lost herself in anger. After forcing myself to breathe and calming down my heart, I recalled what Oishi-san told me.
でですね。その中に出てくる結構。
何がです？
出てくるお社様って単語が。
Following that, Reina was suspended and had regular examinations at the hospital. Then, as Reina was undergoing counseling, she said it over and over. Oyashiro-sama.
お社様っていう幽霊みたいなものがですね、枕元に立って自分を見下ろすんだって。
That was only a piece of their conversation, so I still couldn't see the big picture. It was by no means a happy little conversation. Then, what Reina did, was she saying that ghastly incident was a result of her being possessed by Oyashiro-sama. Up until now, I didn't want to believe in Oyashiro-sama's curse. That's why I wanted to say the mysterious deaths every year happened because of some sort of conspiracy. Every time I talked with Oishi-san, I was more certain that the deaths were the work of men and not of some curse. Except, if it was people perpetrating the incidents, my friends were somehow deeply connected. If I refused to believe that the curse was real, then I would have to believe those who acted the kindest to me were deeply involved in the incidents. Damn, it's almost like that's the reason they were acting so kind to you or something. Almost like they don't want you to learn the truth. They're trying to keep it hidden from you. They want you to think the village is just a bunch of happy-go-lucky people. Why? Just told you why. How? For what reason? I just told you. Was Reina? Was everybody? It was much more painful and troublesome than accepting that it was just Oyashiro-sama's curse. In the aftermath, Reina had admitted to her doctor that it was because she was possessed by Oyashiro-sama. I felt a strange sense of relief from that, so that's how it was. There wasn't a second side to Reina. She did that because she was possessed by something strange like Oyashiro-sama. Don't It wasn't Reina's fault. Oh my god. Yashiro-sama was the one to blame. Oh, Jesus. I knew this was all backwards. Refusing to believe there was a curse, I wanted there to be a human perpetrator. Now that my close friends were the ones under suspicion, I changed my beliefs at my own convenience, saying it was Oyashiro-sama's curse to blame. Which was the better choice? Accepting that Oyashiro-sama's curse exists? Or that Reina and the rest of them were deeply involved in the string of mysterious deaths? I didn't want to think about it. If I just didn't think about it, I'd be able to continue the same as always. I wanted to believe that. But that was no longer possible. I had received their message. It was pathetic of me to try and bend the meaning to my own convenience. Regardless of whether my opponent were a human or a curse, I won't let it kill me. As if I would just bend over and give in. For no good reason at all. Oh? Okay, that's a very interesting development. Oh, you think I'm just gonna give in? You think that's the end of it? Okay, let's see where that gets you, my Bara. Inhaling sharply upon hearing Rena's voice, I came back to my senses. Before I'd realized it, we were already at the entrance. Shaking my head a few times, I exercised all those terrifying thoughts. No matter how you looked at it, there's no way Reina could have done such terrible things. Oh my god. It was like I was trying to placate myself. You are. Every time the sound effects cut out, I fully expect their eyes to fucking glaze over, them to just fucking be like, say some fucking one-liner. As I slid the door open, a blackboard eraser loaded with chalk dropped down on my head the moment I stepped into the classroom. The chalk dust went into my eyes, inducing a brief moment of agony. Not quite in the mood for it, I didn't really react to Satoko's trap. Satoko braced herself as I passed by, expecting me to attack her. She seemed a bit disappointed as I simply walked by silently. Suddenly, there was a slap down my shoulder. It hurt a bit. I wonder who it could be. Oh, yeah. From what I hear, 10 hours worth. It was Mion. My mind was full with the stuff about Reina, but Mion was also a party of interest. Remember, Keiichi, that hawkish gaze from yesterday.
Ah, ohayo.
I'm like this because I ate them. Those words were itching to be blurted out.
やっぱ食欲がなくいくつかは食べたけど、だいぶ残り。
あれ、じゃあどれがレナの手作りかってのの回答は？ケイチ君宿題。ありゃー。
Flashing a lurid smile, Mion returned to her seat. Keiichi. 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 You can answer that question honestly. It's not like the needle was the only thing that differentiated Reina's from Mion's. You figured it out yourself before you even bit into Reina's. When they ask you which one was Reina's, you can answer honestly and be like, it was E. I can tell because, the other four looked very uniform, as if someone had, produced them in mass. Whereas this one looked very handcrafted and intentionally made as a single intentional thing. You can say that. You can just say that. You're setting yourself up for failure now. Because now they're thinking, oh, chicken shit avoided eating them, huh? Okay, we got something more for you. Keiichi. But of course, anyone listening to our conversations up until this morning wouldn't see anything suspicious. That was why it was so frightening. They acted in a way that, regardless of whatever happened to Keiichi Maebara, no one would ever suspect them. And that fact had me terrified. Damn, almost as if that's been the point from the beginning, big dog. Soon the teacher came. After she asked how I felt and took attendance, another dull, ordinary day began. Oh, dear God. Keiichi, what the fuck is wrong with you? I genuinely don't get it why he would not just answer the fucking question. What is he doing? Is he trying to act like he didn't get the message? Like he never got the threat? Is that the whole fucking thing? Is that what he's trying to play pretend at? Like, oh yeah, no, I ate a couple of them, but I couldn't finish them all, so, trying to act like he didn't get a threat, he just thought he just got a nice gift from the homies. Like, I don't understand. And maybe it's because I'm coming at this too fucking logically, but like, and also I'm not a teenager who's still got a developing brain going on, but why would you not say, yeah, I got your message? In your own indirect way. Did you figure out which one was Reina's? That's the thing. She asked if you ate them all. And you said, I wasn't able to finish them all. And then she gave you another chance. She's like, okay, did you at least figure out which one was Reina's? And you can answer. And say, like, what do you gain by insinuating that you didn't get their message, right? What do you gain from going against what they asked of you, right? They asked you to eat them all. They asked you specifically to figure out which one was Reina's. What do you gain by pretending you didn't figure it out? What do you gain by pretending you didn't get the message? Right? Like, you clearly got some sort of message. They know you did just by their visit, right? And your conversation you had. They know you got some kind of message. But clearly you didn't get the full message because you didn't figure out which one was Reina's. What do you gain by not letting them know that I got the message, but also by being fucking chill about it? What do you gain by saying, yep, I figured out which one was Reina's, without fucking without saying, like, oh, because wrong with the needle, Because guess what? If there hadn't have been a needle in it, you would have figured out which one was Reina's. So if you were truly trying to act normal, trying to blend in, trying to just go about life business as usual, would you not say, yeah, I figured out which one was Reina's? Because of this and this and this. I figured it out because of this and this and this. I didn't get to eat them all, but, I figured it out. Yeah, no, I figured it out. And just keep going. Act like nothing happened. Act like you just ate some mochi. Had a good time. And hell, even if they ask, oh, well, did you eat Reina's? Like, if you figured out it was Reina's, you must have eaten it, right? And you go, yeah, no, I finished it. Because quite honestly, you did. You can say, hey, I tasted both. And you could even be cheeky about it. And you could say, I tried to compare the two. There was something really, like, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there was something really unique about Reina's. Something really stood out. It was good. They were all good. There's plenty of ways you could subtly be like, yup, I get it. I don't see what he's gaining from doing this, but I guess I'll find out eventually. But for now, this is where I'll have to wrap it up for today. Holy fuck, things got fucking terrifying in this one. That's the thing. The previous recording session, they're just telling you about the curse and whatnot, and then Tomitake-san dies, and you're like, the curse strikes again. But now we've just gotten so much information and so many of these very, heart-racing encounters. It's like, we're not even done yet. Things are going to get worse. I'm very interested to see where they go from here. Believe me, I am fucking hooked. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to have to wrap this one up here for today. So Thank you to anyone watching, and I hope I will see y'all in the next one. Until then, peace.